Welcome to Bible Stories for Sleep. The scripture tells us, He grants sleep to those He loves. Tonight, let that promise carry you as we walk together through the healing of blind Bartimaeus. If these stories bring you peace, tap subscribe so a new story is always waiting for you. Now release the weight of the day, close your eyes, and let the Word be your rest. The sun, a relentless eye in the Judean sky, beat down upon the ancient road that snaked its way into Jericho, baking the earth to a fine, ochre powder. Each passing foot, each slow, deliberate hoof-fall of a donkey or camel, stirred the dust into lazy, golden clouds that hung in the still air before settling again, coating everything in a soft, uniform film. It was the dust of centuries, the dust of countless journeys, the very breath of this land where history had been carved into stone and memory. Bartimaeus knew this dust intimately, not by sight, but by the way it rasped in his throat, by the gritty texture it left on his tongue, and by the subtle, earthy scent it carried, mingling with the sharper tang of animal and human sweat. His world was a tapestry woven from sound and smell and touch, a world vibrant and immediate, yet forever veiled from his eyes. He sat, as he did every day, on a worn patch of ground just beyond the city's eastern gate, where the road widened slightly before narrowing into the bustling thoroughfares of Jericho itself. The city, a fertile jewel nestled far below the level of the great sea, was a constant hum in his ears, a symphony of life that ebbed and flowed with the rhythm of the day. From his vantage point, a small, hollowed-out dip in the earth that had become his own, he could discern the distant cries of vendors hawking their wares to the sharp, melodic calls of those selling dates, the deeper rumble of merchants boasting of their textiles, the ceaseless bleating of sheep destined for market. He heard the clatter of pottery, the rhythmic thud of a carpenter's hammer from within the city walls, and the high-pitched laughter of children playing in sun-drenched courtyards. These sounds, though often indistinct, painted a vivid picture in his mind, a world he could feel but never truly see. The air around him was a complex perfume. The overwhelming sweetness of date palms, heavy with fruit, drifted from the extensive groves that surrounded Jericho, a scent that spoke of cool shade and abundant water in this otherwise parched land. It mingled with the dry, almost metallic smell of the arid hills that loomed in the distance, a stark reminder of the wilderness that pressed in on all sides. And always, there was the underlying scent of humanity, of olive oil and spices, of sweat and unwashed wool, of the faint, metallic tang of the Roman soldiers who occasionally patrolled the road, their sandals crunching with a distinct, authoritative rhythm. Bartimaeus, his face a roadmap of sun-baked wrinkles, felt the warmth of the sun on his eyelids, a sensation that offered a vague, comforting glow against the perpetual darkness behind them. His clothes, a simple, rough tunic and a heavy, patched cloak, were imbued with the dust of countless days, their fabric coarse against his skin. The cloak, once a vibrant hue, was now faded to an indeterminate brown, serving not only as protection from the biting chill of the desert nights but also as a receptacle for the small coins that occasionally landed with a soft clink beside him. He kept it wrapped tightly around his shoulders, a familiar weight that offered a small measure of security in a world that often felt indifferent. He was not young, nor was he old, but somewhere in the middle, his body bearing the quiet resilience of one who had learned to endure. Years spent by this roadside had honed his other senses to an extraordinary degree. He could tell the difference between the hurried, purposeful stride of a merchant and the shuffling gait of a pilgrim, between the light step of a woman and the heavier tread of a man. He could distinguish the rustle of fine linen from the coarse weave of a shepherd's tunic as they passed, the faint whisper of their garments a fleeting clue to their status. His hands, calloused and strong despite their years of idleness, rested lightly on the ground beside him, feeling the subtle vibrations of approaching footsteps long before the sound reached his ears. He knew the precise angle of the sun by the warmth on his skin, the time of day by the shifting patterns of sound and scent. Yet, despite this intimate connection to his surroundings, a profound yearning resided within him, a silent ache that transcended the physical discomforts of his life. It was a yearning for light, for the simple, undeniable truth of sight, to see the faces of those who passed, to witness the vibrant colors of the Jericho oasis, to gaze upon the endless expanse of the sky. He often imagined the faces of the people whose voices he heard, to the kind woman who sometimes dropped a piece of bread into his outstretched hand, the gruff merchant who always hurried past without a glance, the curious children whose whispers sometimes reached him. He constructed their visages in his mind, drawing from the inflections of their speech, the cadence of their laughter, the subtle scents they carried. But these were mere shadows, born of imagination, never the true, undeniable forms that his heart so desperately craved. Bartimaeus was an outcast, a fixture of the roadside, largely ignored by the bustling world that flowed past him. He was one of many, a blind beggar in a land where such afflictions were common, and compassion, though present, was often stretched thin. He read the whispers, the dismissive murmurs, the occasional sharp word from those who found his presence an inconvenience. He was accustomed to the averted gazes, the quickening of paces, the way people would sometimes cross to the other side of the road to avoid him. It was a quiet kind of marginalization, a slow erosion of dignity that had chipped away at his spirit over the years, leaving behind a core of weary resignation. Yet, beneath that resignation, something else flickered, a stubborn ember of hope that refused to be extinguished. It was a hope born of stories, of legends whispered among the beggars and the travelers, tales of miracles and divine intervention. He had read of a Nazarene, a healer, whose touch brought sight to the blind, whose words stirred the hearts of the downtrodden. The name, Jesus, was spoken with reverence by some, with skepticism by others, but for Bartimaeus, it was a spark in the overwhelming darkness, a distant star in his unseen sky. He clung to this hope with a fierce, quiet tenacity, a belief that defied the harsh realities of his daily existence. He imagined what it would be like to see, to truly see, to behold the world not as a collection of sounds and smells, but as a vibrant, tangible reality. He longed not just for physical sight, but for a restoration of his place in the world, a connection to the humanity that so often passed him by. He yearned for dignity, for the ability to walk among others as an equal, to no longer be defined solely by his affliction. It was a dream he nurtured in the silent hours of the night, under the vast, star-pricked blanket of the desert sky, and in the relentless heat of the Jericho day, as the dust of the road settled once more upon his worn cloak. The relentless heat of the Jericho day, a heavy, invisible blanket, often brought with it a profound stillness, a momentary lull in the constant flow of life along the ancient road. Bartimaeus, accustomed to the rhythm of this thoroughfare, could sense these subtle shifts in the air, the way the dust settled more thickly on his outstretched hand during these quiet intervals, the brief respite from the clatter of hooves and the murmur of distant voices. It was during one such lull, as the sun began its slow, deliberate descent towards the western hills, casting long, distorted shadows across the parched earth, that a new sound began to prickle at the edges of his acute hearing. It was not the familiar jingle of a merchant's caravan, nor the hurried footsteps of a lone traveler. This sound was different, a low, persistent hum that grew steadily, like a distant swarm of bees, yet carried with it a distinct resonance of human excitement, a collective anticipation that vibrated through the very ground beneath his worn mat. He lifted his head slightly, his sightless eyes, though unseeing, seemed to strain towards the source of the commotion, his brow furrowing in a mixture of curiosity and a faint, unbidden hope. The scent of date palms, usually a comforting presence, now seemed to mingle with the sharper, more acrid smell of dust freshly disturbed by a multitude of feet, and the faint, metallic tang of sweat. "What is it?" he called out, his voice a little hoarse from disuse, directed generally towards the shifting sounds around him. "What is happening on the road?" A woman's voice, sharp and impatient, answered from somewhere nearby, her tone laced with the weariness of one who had answered the same question countless times. "It's the Nazarene, old man. Jesus of Nazareth. He's passing through Jericho on his way to Jerusalem." The words, Jesus of Nazareth, struck Bartimaeus with the force of a physical blow, not painful, but electrifying, like a sudden jolt of cool water on a scorching day. The name, whispered and spoken with reverence and awe by some, with disdain by others, had been a constant refrain in the bustling marketplace, a thread woven into the fabric of daily conversations for months now. He had heard tales, fragments of stories carried on the wind, of the lame walking, the deaf hearing, the sick made whole. He had listened intently, sifting through the layers of gossip and exaggeration, searching for the core of truth, a spark of genuine possibility within the narratives. He had heard of a man who spoke with authority, who touched the untouchable, and who saw beyond the outward appearance to the hidden suffering within. A tremor ran through Bartimaeus, a sensation that began deep in his chest and spread outwards, quickening his breath. This was not just another passing dignitary, another wealthy traveler from whom he might beg a few coins. This was him, the healer, the one who brought light to darkness. A desperate, audacious idea, born of years of silent yearning, began to coalesce in his mind, pushing aside the usual resignation that cloaked his days. His heart, which had beat with a slow, steady rhythm of endurance for so long, now hammered against his ribs with a frantic, almost youthful energy. The crowd's murmur grew into a vibrant roar, a symphony of voices, footsteps, and the occasional bray of a donkey, all converging towards his position by the roadside. He could discern individual shouts now, snippets of conversation. "Make way! Make way for the teacher, and he's coming! He's really coming!" The air grew thick with the scent of human bodies, the rich aroma of spices from market stalls, and the earthy smell of the road itself. He imagined the scene, a sea of faces, all turned in one direction, eyes wide with expectation, jostling for a glimpse of this extraordinary man. Bartimaeus knew, with an instinct born of years of navigating a world without sight, that this was his moment. This was the confluence of his deepest desire and the very presence of the one who might fulfill it. He had heard the stories of others who had called out to Jesus, who had pressed through the throngs, driven by an unshakable belief. and they had been heard. They had been healed. Why not him? Why should he, Bartimaeus, be any different? A fierce determination, unlike anything he had felt in years, surged through him, banishing the familiar chill of despair. He would not let this opportunity pass. He would not remain silent, a forgotten shadow by the roadside. He would make himself heard. He would pierce through the clamor of the crowd, through the indifference of those who saw only a beggar, and reach the ears of the Nazarene. Taking a deep, shaky breath, Bartimaeus gathered all the strength in his lungs, all the pent-up frustration and hope of a lifetime, and cried out, his voice raw and surprisingly powerful, cutting through the din, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." His cry, though loud, seemed to be swallowed almost immediately by the surging tide of the crowd's excitement. He heard a few heads turn, a few murmurs of annoyance. "Be quiet, old man," someone hissed nearby. "Don't bother the teacher." Another voice, gruffer, added, "He's busy. He doesn't have time for beggars." A wave of discouragement, cold and sharp, threatened to wash over him. It was the familiar dismissal, the casual cruelty of those who saw him as an inconvenience, a blight on the landscape. For a fleeting moment, the old weariness, the ingrained habit of resignation, tugged at him. Perhaps they were right. Perhaps he was foolish to hope. Perhaps he was merely a nuisance. But then, the image of the Nazarene, as described in the hushed tones of those who had witnessed his miracles, flashed in his mind's eye, a man of profound compassion, whose gaze was said to penetrate to the very soul. He remembered the stories of Jesus touching lepers, embracing children, speaking to outcasts. This was not a man who would be bothered by a cry for help. This was a man who listened. So, Bartimaeus steeled himself. He would not be silenced. He would not be deterred. He would not allow the voices of doubt, internal or external, to drown out the burning ember of hope within him. He took another breath, deeper this time, and cried out again, even louder, his voice imbued with a desperate, unwavering conviction that surprised even himself. "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." This time, his cry resonated more forcefully, perhaps because the crowd was now closer, perhaps because his desperation had lent his voice a new, piercing quality. He felt a few shoves, heard more insistent admonishments. "Silence! You'll disturb him, and hold your tongue, beggar!" But he also felt a subtle shift in the air, a momentary hesitation in the flow of the crowd, as if his persistent cries had created a small eddy in the human current. He imagined their faces, turning towards him, some with pity, some with irritation, some with a faint flicker of curiosity. But he didn't care about their judgment. His focus was singular, unwavering, directed towards the unseen figure at the heart of the commotion. He pictured Jesus, walking with purpose, perhaps engaged in conversation, surrounded by his disciples, yet somehow, he believed, attuned to the subtle vibrations of human need. He knew, with a certainty that transcended logic, that he had to keep calling, to keep pushing through the wall of noise and indifference. His very salvation, his dignity, his future, depended on this moment. He had nothing left to lose, and everything to gain. The years of sitting by the roadside, listening to the world pass him by, had honed his sense of timing, his ability to discern subtle shifts in the environment. He knew that the Nazarene was drawing closer, the intensity of the crowd's presence now almost overwhelming. With every fiber of his being, Bartimaeus poured his entire being into a third, even more fervent cry, his voice now ragged, but imbued with an almost primal force. "Son of David, have mercy on me!" He repeated the plea, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy," over and over, a litany of desperate hope, a prayer hurled into the cacophony of the world. And then, miraculously, wondrously, the roar of the crowd began to subside. It wasn't an immediate silence, but a gradual tapering, like a great wave receding from the shore. The shouts of admonishment faded, replaced by a different kind of murmur, a hushed anticipation. He heard footsteps slowing, then stopping. The air, which had been thick with the jostling and pushing of bodies, now felt strangely still around him. A voice, calm and clear, cut through the residual hum, a voice that seemed to carry an authority that commanded attention, a voice that was both gentle and firm. "Call him." Bartimaeus felt a surge of adrenaline, a dizzying rush of disbelief and elation. He had been heard. He, the blind beggar, the forgotten man, had been heard by the Nazarene. The words were not directed at him, but about him, a command to those around Jesus. Then, a different voice, closer now, filled with a newfound urgency and perhaps a touch of awe, spoke directly to him. "Cheer up! Get up! He is calling you." The tone was no longer dismissive, but encouraging, almost deferential. The shift was palpable, a sudden reversal of his social standing, orchestrated by a single command from the Nazarene. A thrill, both terrifying and exhilarating, shot through Bartimaeus. He scrambled to his feet, his worn mat forgotten, his staff clattering to the dusty ground. In his haste, his cloak, his only real possession, the garment that served as his blanket, his protection from the elements, and his receptacle for arms, felt like a heavy burden, an impediment. With a decisive, almost violent gesture, he flung it off, casting it aside as if shedding the very symbol of his old life, his old identity as a beggar. He needed nothing to hold him back, nothing to weigh him down, not now. He took a tentative step forward, his hands outstretched, groping for guidance. He heard the rustle of robes, the soft scuff of sandals on the dusty road, the hushed whispers of the crowd, all now focused intently on him. He felt a gentle hand on his arm, guiding him, and he allowed himself to be led forward, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. Each step was a leap of faith, a journey into the unknown, yet he felt no fear, only an overwhelming sense of purpose. The air around him seemed to thicken with a palpable presence, a warmth that was not from the sun, but from something deeper, more profound. He could almost feel the eyes of the Nazarene upon him, a gaze that saw beyond the tattered clothes and the sightless eyes, a gaze that saw the yearning soul within. The scent of the date palms and the dust of the road seemed to recede, replaced by a faint, clean aroma, perhaps of fresh linen, perhaps of something indefinable, holy. He was led a few more steps, and then he felt himself stop. The guiding hand released his arm. The murmuring of the crowd was now a barely audible hum, a collective holding of breath. He knew with an absolute certainty that he stood before him. The silence between them was profound, pregnant with possibility, stretching out like an endless moment. Then, the voice, the same calm, authoritative voice that had commanded the crowd to call him, spoke directly to Bartimaeus. It was a voice that resonated not just in his ears, but deep within his very being, a voice that carried the weight of compassion and understanding. "What do you want me to do for you?" The question, so simple, yet so profound, hung in the air. Bartimaeus had anticipated this moment, had rehearsed his plea countless times in the quiet solitude of his mind. Yet, now that the moment was upon him, a wave of emotion, a lifetime of suppressed longing, threatened to overwhelm him. The words caught in his throat, a lump of unshed tears. He wanted to blurt out 1,000 things, to see the faces of his family, to behold the vibrant colors of the Jericho oasis, to walk without stumbling, to be a man among men, not just a shadow. But he knew, instinctively, that the Nazarene understood the deepest desires of the heart. He didn't need a lengthy explanation. He needed only the truth, distilled to its purest essence. He swallowed hard, pushing back the tide of emotion, and with a voice that was still raw, but now filled with an unshakable conviction, he articulated the single, most profound yearning of his existence. "Rabbi, I want to see." The words hung in the air, simple, direct, yet carrying the weight of years of darkness, years of exclusion, years of silent prayer. He felt a tremor pass through the air, a subtle shift in the energy around them. He waited, his entire being poised on the precipice of an unknown future, his breath held captive in his chest. Then, the voice spoke again, gentle yet firm, imbued with a power that Bartimaeus could feel deep in his bones. "Go," the Nazarene said, "your faith has healed you." And in that instant, something shifted within Bartimaeus. It wasn't a sudden flash of light, not a blinding burst of color. It was more subtle, more profound, like the slow, gentle unfurling of a tightly closed bud. A warmth spread through his eyes, a tingling sensation, as if dormant nerves were suddenly awakening. The oppressive darkness, which had been his constant companion for so long, began to recede, not with a jolt, but with a gradual, almost imperceptible softening. He blinked once, twice, and then, through what felt like a veil of mist, he began to perceive shapes. Blurred at first, indistinct, like shadows dancing behind a thin curtain. Then, slowly, painstakingly, the shapes began to resolve themselves. He saw the dusty ground beneath his feet, not as a uniform gray expanse, but as a mosaic of browns and ochres, tiny pebbles, and grains of sand. He saw the hem of a robe, a rich, earthy blue, and then, slowly, he lifted his gaze. The world rushed in, a torrent of visual information that was both overwhelming and exhilarating. The vibrant, almost shocking green of the date palm fronds against the impossibly blue sky. The sun, a dazzling orb of white gold, momentarily forcing him to squint. The faces of the crowd, a kaleidoscope of expressions, awe, wonder, disbelief, joy. He saw the intricate patterns on their garments, the varied textures of their hair, the individual lines etched by time on their faces. And then his gaze settled on the man before him. Jesus! He saw the Nazarene's face, clear and distinct, framed by dark hair and a beard, eyes that held a depth of compassion he had only ever imagined. A gentle smile played on his lips. The sight was more beautiful, more profound than any dream he had ever conjured in his years of darkness. A gasp escaped Bartimaeus's lips, a sound of pure, unadulterated wonder. He reached out a trembling hand, not to beg, but to touch, to confirm the reality of what he was seeing. The world was no longer a tapestry of sounds and smells and textures, but a vibrant, living canvas, bursting with color and light. He could see the distant hills, hazy in the afternoon light, the outlines of the city walls, the bustling activity that had always been a mystery to his eyes. Tears, hot and unfamiliar, streamed down his newly seeing face, tears not of sorrow, but of overwhelming joy and gratitude. He could not speak, his throat constricted by the sheer magnitude of the miracle. He simply stood there, drinking in the sight of the world, a world he had only ever known through the fragmented reports of others. The crowd, which had been hushed in anticipation, now erupted in a chorus of shouts and exclamations, a mixture of praise and astonishment. "He sees! He sees!" they cried, their voices filled with a shared wonder. Bartimaeus, however, was oblivious to their reactions. His entire being was consumed by the miracle, by the breathtaking beauty of the visible world. He turned his head slowly, taking in every detail, every nuance. The way the light caught the dust motes dancing in the air, the subtle variations in the color of the stones on the road, the intricate weave of a woman's basket. It was all new, all fresh, all a gift. He felt a profound sense of connection, not just to the Nazarene, but to the world itself, a connection that had been severed for so long. His old life, the life of the blind beggar, seemed to fall away from him like the discarded cloak. He was no longer defined by his affliction, no longer an outcast. He was a man who saw, a man who had been touched by grace, a man reborn. The yearning for dignity, for connection, for a place in the world, was no longer a distant hope, but a vibrant, living reality. The sun, a relentless orb in the Judean sky, beat down upon the ancient road that snaked its way through the fertile oasis of Jericho, a ribbon of dust and packed earth connecting the bustling city to the wider world. Bartimaeus, a man whose eyes had known only an endless, shifting canvas of shadow and light for as long as he could remember, felt the familiar warmth on his weathered face, a warmth that offered little comfort against the gnawing chill of his isolation. He sat, as he did most days, by the roadside, his rough tunic gathering the fine, ochre dust that rose incessantly from the thousands of sandals and animal hooves that traversed this vital artery of trade and travel. The air, thick with the scent of date palms and the distant, sweet perfume of blossoming fruit trees from Jericho's abundant gardens, mingled with the acrid tang of sweat and the earthy smell of donkeys, creating a complex tapestry of odors that was as familiar to him as the hollow ache in his gut. His ears, honed by years of darkness, were his windows to the world, and they drank in the symphony of the road, the rhythmic clatter of merchant carts, the high-pitched bleating of sheep, the lowing of cattle, and, most prominently, the ceaseless murmur of human voices to a rich, shifting current of Aramaic, Greek, and Latin, each dialect a brushstroke in the vibrant painting of life he could only hear. He knew the cadence of the pilgrims heading to Jerusalem, the hurried footsteps of traders, the measured tread of Roman soldiers. Each sound was a story a fleeting glimpse into a world from which his blindness had largely excluded him. His heavy cloak, draped over his shoulders, served not only as protection from the sun's harsh glare and the desert's surprising night chill, but also as a silent invitation for alms, a receptacle for the small coins that were his lifeline. He yearned for more than just coins, though. He yearned for connection, for the simple dignity of seeing the faces of those who passed him by, for the ability to navigate the world without constant reliance on the charity of strangers. Today, however, the usual ebb and flow of the crowd began to shift, to swell with an unusual intensity. A distant hum, low at first, grew steadily into a roar, a wave of sound unlike the typical market clamor. It was a sound of anticipation, of excitement, of a multitude drawn by a singular, powerful magnet. Bartimaeus leaned forward slightly, his head cocked, his brow furrowed in concentration. He felt the vibrations through the packed earth beneath him, a tremor that spoke of many feet, moving with purpose. The murmur of voices intensified, becoming a cacophony of exclamations and hushed whispers, punctuated by the occasional shout of a street vendor trying to capitalize on the sudden influx. "He's coming!" "The Nazarene!" someone cried, their voice sharp with excitement, cutting through the general din. Another voice, closer, breathed, "Jesus of Nazareth, they say he heals the sick." A jolt, like a sudden tremor through his very bones, shot through Bartimaeus. Jesus of Nazareth. The name had been whispered on the wind for weeks, carried by travelers from Galilee, spoken in hushed tones of wonder and awe. Stories of miracles, of the lame walking, the deaf hearing, and yes, even the blind seeing, had reached his dusty corner of the world, igniting a fragile, desperate spark of hope within his weary heart. He had heard tales of a man who spoke with authority, whose touch brought restoration, whose compassion knew no bounds. Could it be true? Could such a man truly exist, and was he now, by some divine providence, passing within earshot of Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, the blind beggar of Jericho? A fierce, unbidden surge of determination, hot and urgent, welled up within him, pushing aside years of resignation and quiet despair. This was his chance, perhaps his only chance. He had nothing to lose, and everything to gain. His heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the rising tide of the crowd's excitement. He imagined the man, Jesus, moving through the throngs, perhaps surrounded by his disciples, his face a blur of light and shadow in his mind's eye. He had to reach him, had to make himself known amidst this roaring sea of humanity. Taking a deep, shuddering breath, Bartimaeus gathered every ounce of strength in his being, every flicker of hope that had sustained him through countless sunrises and sunsets of darkness. He opened his mouth and let loose a cry, a raw, guttural sound torn from the deepest wellspring of his soul, a sound that carried the weight of years of longing, of silent prayers, of unfulfilled dreams. "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me," he bellowed, his voice surprisingly strong, cutting through the clamor like a sharpened blade. The effect was immediate, though not in the way he hoped. Instead of drawing attention to his plight, his desperate plea seemed to act as a jarring discord in the crowd's eager anticipation. A wave of irritation rippled through the throng. He heard the sharp intake of breaths, the rustle of garments as people turned, not towards Jesus, but towards him. "Silence, Old man, a gruff voice snapped, close by. Do not disturb the master. Be quiet, beggar, another commanded, laced with a dismissive sneer. He has no time for your kind. A woman's voice, softer but equally firm, added, the teacher is busy, he cannot be bothered with every street mendicant. He felt the subtle shift in the air, the collective disapproval, the unspoken message that he was an inconvenience, a disruption to their orderly procession to witness something grand. They wanted to see the miracles, to hear the teachings, but they did not want the messy reality of human suffering to intrude upon their experience. They were quick to enforce the social norms, to keep the marginalized firmly in their place, out of sight, out of mind. The very people who followed Jesus, who listened to his message of love and compassion, were now, in their eagerness, becoming an obstacle to that very compassion. A hot flush of shame, mingled with a defiant anger, spread across Bartimaeus's face. He knew their disdain, had felt it many times before, a cold, invisible hand pushing him back into the shadows. But this was different. This was his moment, a fleeting window of opportunity that might never come again. He could not, would not, be silenced. The yearning within him was too profound, the hope too potent to be extinguished by a few harsh words. He took another breath, drawing strength from an unseen well of persistence, and cried out again, louder this time, his voice cracking with the sheer force of his emotion, a desperate, unyielding appeal that echoed the ancient prayers of his ancestors. Son of David, have mercy on me, he implored, his voice raw, hoarse now, but unwavering. The crowd's irritation intensified. He heard the shuffling of feet, the murmurs growing more agitated. Someone nudged him roughly with a foot, a silent command to cease his clamor. He imagined their faces, contorted with annoyance, their eyes fixed on the approaching figure of Jesus, eager to protect their view, their experience, from the intrusion of a blind beggar's desperate plea. They saw only a nuisance, a disruption to their spiritual spectacle, failing to see the man, the soul, behind the tattered cloak and the outstretched hand. They were blind in their own way, unable to perceive the profound need that fueled his cries, the unwavering faith that burned within him. Yet, Bartimaeus held firm. He had spent a lifetime in darkness, a lifetime being overlooked, dismissed, and marginalized. He knew the feeling of being invisible, of his voice being unheard. But this was not a plea for a coin, this was a plea for a life, for a chance at redemption, for the restoration of his very being. He would not be silenced. He would not give up. His voice, though hoarse, became a beacon in the swirling dust, a testament to an unyielding spirit, a persistent echo of faith against the rising tide of human indifference. He could feel the presence of Jesus drawing closer, the very air around him seeming to hum with an unseen energy, and with every step the teacher took, Bartimaeus's resolve hardened, his cries growing more fervent, more insistent, a solitary, desperate song in the heart of a bustling, indifferent world. He would not give up. His voice, though hoarse, became a beacon in the swirling dust, a testament to an unyielding spirit, a persistent echo of faith against the rising tide of human indifference. He could feel the presence of Jesus drawing closer, the very air around him seeming to hum with an unseen energy, and with every step the teacher took, Bartimaeus's resolve hardened, his cries growing more fervent, more insistent, a solitary, desperate song in the heart of a bustling, indifferent world. The crowd, a surging river of humanity, continued its inexorable flow, a current that threatened to sweep Bartimaeus away in its indifference. Their murmurs and shouts, once a distant hum, now pressed in on him, a cacophony of impatience and irritation. "Quiet, old man," the gruff voice barked from somewhere close, the words sharp and unyielding, cutting through the din like a stone skipping across water. "Do you not see the teacher is busy?" Another voice, softer but equally dismissive, added, "He has important matters to attend to, not the pleas of every roadside beggar." Bartimaeus felt the subtle shift in the air, the collective disapproval of those who believed their proximity to Jesus granted them a right to dictate who deserved his attention. He imagined their faces, contorted with annoyance, their hands perhaps gesturing for him to cease his clamor, their eyes, unlike his own, perfectly capable of seeing the man they so zealously guarded. A wave of shame, cold and unwelcome, threatened to wash over him, to silence the cry that had become his only hope. He had spent a lifetime in the shadows, accustomed to the dismissive glances and averted gazes, the hurried footsteps that passed him by. The weight of his blindness was not just the absence of light, but the crushing burden of invisibility, the feeling of being an afterthought in a world that moved too quickly to notice. But this was different. This was not just another passerby, this was Jesus, the one whose name whispered through the marketplaces and along the dusty roads, a name synonymous with hope, with miracles, with a compassion that seemed to defy the harsh realities of their world. He pictured Jesus, a figure he could only construct in his mind's eye from the hushed descriptions he'd overheard, a man of gentle bearing, yet with an undeniable authority that commanded respect, a presence that could calm the storm-tossed sea or stir the hearts of thousands with a single parable. Bartimaeus had heard of the lame walking, the deaf hearing, the lepers cleansed, and each story had woven itself into the fabric of his desperate hope, a tapestry of possibility that defied his own bleak reality. He had nothing left to lose, only a lifetime of darkness to gain. The fear of being rebuked, of being dismissed, was a small price to pay for even the slimmest chance of seeing the sun, of seeing the faces of those who passed him by, of seeing the world in all its vibrant, terrifying beauty. So, he pushed back against the shame, against the fear, against the collective will of the crowd. He drew a deep, ragged breath, the dry air scratching at his throat, and let his voice rise again, not in a plea, but in a demand, a declaration of his unwavering belief. "Son of David, have mercy on me," he cried, his voice cracking with the raw intensity of his desire, each word a desperate prayer hurled into the indifferent air, a challenge to the very notion of his own insignificance. He knew the title, Son of David, carried immense weight, a recognition of Jesus' lineage and messianic claims, a bold assertion of faith that transcended the simple request for alms. It was a cry that demanded to be heard, not just by the man walking past, but by the very heavens themselves. The crowd's irritation intensified, their whispers growing louder, more insistent. He felt a jostle, perhaps a hand pushing against his shoulder, a silent command to cease his disruptive clamor. "Be quiet, man! You'll anger the teacher," someone hissed, their voice laced with a mixture of fear and proprietary zeal. But Bartimaeus held fast to his tattered cloak, his knuckles white against the rough fabric, his body a rigid testament to his resolve. He imagined their faces, their expressions a mixture of annoyance and perhaps a flicker of pity, but no understanding. They saw a beggar, a nuisance, an interruption to their pilgrimage, but they did not see the years of darkness, the endless nights, the silent despair that had become his constant companion. They did not see the flicker of hope that had ignited within him, a fragile flame that he would protect with every fiber of his being. He would not be silenced, not now, not when the very source of his hope was so close, so tantalizingly within reach. His cries became a rhythmic chant, a mantra of desperate faith, rising and falling with the ebb and flow of the crowd's grumbling. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Then, a subtle shift. A ripple, almost imperceptible at first, moved through the dense throng. The insistent murmurs began to soften, the collective flow of humanity seemed to hesitate, to falter, like a river encountering an unexpected obstacle. Bartimaeus, with his heightened sense of hearing, felt it more than read it. The rhythmic shuffle of sandals, the distant chatter, the rustle of garments to all seemed to diminish, to recede, as if a great hand had reached down and momentarily muted the world around him. A stillness began to spread, a pocket of quiet forming in the heart of the bustling road, a sudden, profound hush that was more startling than any noise. He held his breath, his heart thrumming against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the sudden quiet. Had he imagined it? Had his desperate hope conjured this momentary reprieve from the relentless noise? Then he read it, clear and distinct, cutting through the lingering echoes of the crowd's disapproval. A voice, calm and resonant, yet filled with an undeniable authority, spoke. "Stand still." The words were not directed at him, not yet, but at the surging mass of people, a command that instantly brought the chaotic movement to a halt. Bartimaeus felt the cessation of the jostling, the sudden absence of bodies pressing against him. The air, which had been thick with the scent of dust and sweat and the faint sweetness of date palms, now seemed to carry a different quality, a sense of anticipation, of profound attention. He imagined the heads of the crowd turning, their eyes, which moments before had been fixed on Jesus, now swiveling to locate the source of the persistent cries. He felt their collective gaze, a sudden, intense focus that was both unnerving and exhilarating. Then, the voice spoke again, closer this time, and unmistakably directed at him. "Call him." The words were gentle, an invitation, a command that carried no hint of rebuke, only a quiet, unwavering presence. Bartimaeus's breath hitched in his throat. He strained his ears, trying to discern the source, the direction. He imagined Jesus, standing amidst the suddenly silent crowd, his gaze, though unseen by Bartimaeus, fixed upon him. A wave of profound relief washed over him, so potent it almost buckled his knees. He had been read. Despite the crowd, despite his perceived insignificance, despite the dismissive shouts, the teacher had read him. The hope that had been a fragile flame now roared into a bonfire, consuming all doubt, all fear. Then, a new sound emerged from the stillness, voices, no longer harsh or dismissive, but softer, almost encouraging. "Take heart! Get up, he is calling you." The words were spoken by members of the very crowd who had tried to silence him, their tone now transformed by the teacher's simple command. Bartimaeus felt a surge of adrenaline, a renewed strength coursing through his veins. He imagined their faces now, no longer annoyed, but perhaps a little awestruck, a little chastened, their earlier impatience replaced by a newfound deference to Jesus' will. The shift in their demeanor was palpable, a testament to the quiet power emanating from the Nazarene. He felt hands, gentle hands this time, reaching out to him, not to push him away, but to guide him. He felt a touch on his arm, a steadying presence. "Come, old man, he calls for you," a voice urged, closer now, filled with a surprising kindness. Bartimaeus, propelled by an almost unbearable surge of hope and adrenaline, did not hesitate. He moved with a swiftness that belied his years and his infirmity. His tattered cloak, the only real possession he owned, the heavy garment that had served as his shelter, his blanket, and his receptacle for arms, suddenly felt like a burden, a symbol of his past life, a shroud of his blindness. With a decisive, almost violent gesture, he flung it from him, casting it aside onto the dusty ground. It landed with a soft thud, a discarded skin, a symbol of the life he was determined to shed. He did not care where it fell, or if he would ever retrieve it. His focus was singular, absolute, to reach the voice that had called him, the voice that promised not just arms, but something far more profound. He scrambled to his feet, his legs, accustomed to sitting, protesting for a moment before finding their strength. He stumbled forward, guided by the voices, by the sudden, palpable shift in the crowd, by the sheer magnetic pull of Jesus' presence. His heart pounded in his chest, a frantic drumbeat of anticipation. He could feel the warmth of the sun on his face, the dry air on his skin, the texture of the dusty road beneath his bare feet. Each sensation was heightened, sharpened by the intensity of the moment. He imagined the path opening before him, the crowd parting like the Red Sea, creating a clear aisle for him to approach the teacher. He moved with an urgency born of a lifetime of waiting, of a desperate yearning for light. He could hear the soft murmur of the crowd, no longer dismissive, but hushed, expectant, their collective gaze following his every uncertain step. He was no longer an invisible beggar, he was the focal point, the recipient of the teacher's attention, and in that moment, he felt a dignity he had not known in decades. He continued to move forward, his arms outstretched slightly, his hands searching the air for guidance, his ears straining to pinpoint the exact location of the voice that had summoned him. He could feel the presence of Jesus growing stronger, a warmth, a profound stillness that seemed to emanate from a specific point in the now hushed crowd. The scent of dust and the faint sweetness of the date palms were still present, but now, overlaid with something else, something subtle and profound, a sense of peace that settled over the chaotic scene. He took another step, then another, his bare feet kicking up small clouds of dust, each step bringing him closer to the man who held the key to his deepest desire. The world had narrowed to this single, profound moment, the blind beggar, the compassionate teacher, and the silent, watching crowd. Bartimaeus felt a profound sense of purpose, a certainty that this moment, this encounter, was the culmination of all his suffering, all his yearning, all his unwavering faith. He was ready. He was ready to see. The air, thick with the scent of date palms and the pervasive dust of travel, seemed to hold its breath as Bartimaeus, guided by the sound of Jesus' voice, took another tentative step forward. The crowd, a living, breathing wall of humanity, parted reluctantly before him, their murmurs now hushed to a low thrum of anticipation. He could feel their eyes upon him, 1,000 silent judgments and curiosities, but they no longer held the power to sting. His focus, sharp and unwavering, was fixed solely on the warmth emanating from the teacher, a warmth that promised not just comfort, but profound change. Jesus, standing a little apart from his disciples, had turned his head slightly, his gaze, Bartimaeus imagined, piercing through the layers of doubt and despair that often clung to the marginalized. A profound stillness settled around the Nazarene, a quiet authority that commanded attention without demanding it. He did not move towards Bartimaeus, but waited, his posture an invitation, a silent promise of presence. Bartimaeus felt a surge of adrenaline, a thrilling mix of fear and exhilaration, as if he stood on the precipice of a great canyon, about to take a leap into the unknown. This was it, the moment he had cried out for, the moment he had dared to dream of, was finally upon him. His heart hammered against his ribs, a drumbeat of hope echoing the rhythm of his determined steps. Then, a voice, clearer and closer than the others, broke through the hushed reverence. "Be of good cheer. Rise, he is calling you." It was one of the messengers, the one who had first relayed Jesus' invitation, his tone now softened, imbued with a genuine encouragement that had been absent before. Another voice, equally kind, added, "He wants to speak with you, Bartimaeus." The words, simple yet profound, resonated deep within him, confirming what his spirit already knew. Jesus was not merely tolerating his presence, he was actively seeking him, extending an invitation that transcended the social barriers that had long defined Bartimaeus' existence. A wave of emotion, so potent it threatened to buckle his knees, washed over him. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced in years, perhaps not since the last fading memory of his mother's touch, a sense of being truly seen, truly valued. He imagined Jesus' eyes, full of a compassion that could mend broken spirits, resting upon him, not in pity, but in understanding. This wasn't the dismissive glance of a passerby, nor the hurried charity of a guilt-ridden merchant. This was an invitation to connection, to a moment that felt sacred and deeply personal. He felt the rough wool of his cloak, heavy and familiar, draped over his shoulders. It was more than just a garment, it was his sanctuary, his shield against the elements, his collection basket, and, in a way, his identity. For years, it had been the only thing that truly belonged to him, a constant companion in his solitary existence. It held the dust of 1,000 roads, the scent of countless meals shared with strangers, and the silent weight of unfulfilled dreams. But now, as he stood on the threshold of this transformative encounter, the cloak felt like a burden, a tangible reminder of the life he was about to leave behind. It was the symbol of his blindness, his begging, his marginalization. With a sudden, decisive movement, born of an instinct both primal and spiritual, Bartimaeus reached up and grasped the edges of the heavy garment. He felt the coarse fabric between his fingers, the familiar weight on his shoulders, and in that instant, he understood. To approach Jesus, to truly receive what he offered, he had to shed the old self, to cast off the trappings of his former life. It was a symbolic act, a profound declaration of his readiness to embrace a new beginning. He would not carry the weight of his past into the presence of his future. With a powerful, almost violent heave, he pulled the cloak from his shoulders. It billowed for a moment, a dark, shapeless form against the bright Jericho sun, then fell to the dusty ground with a soft thud, settling like a discarded skin. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, a sound of surprise and awe at the sheer audacity of the act. To them, it was a beggar casting off his only valuable possession. To Bartimaeus, it was a blind man shedding the last vestiges of his old life, a profound act of faith that declared, without words, his absolute trust in the man who called him. He felt lighter, unburdened, as if the weight of years had been lifted from his spirit. His heart, still pounding, now beat with a lighter, freer rhythm. He took another step, then another, his bare feet kicking up small clouds of dust, each step bringing him closer to the man who held the key to his deepest desire. The world had narrowed to this single, profound moment: the blind beggar, the compassionate teacher, and the silent, watching crowd. Bartimaeus felt a profound sense of purpose, a certainty that this moment, this encounter, was the culmination of all his suffering, all his yearning, all his unwavering faith. He was ready. He was ready to see. He could now hear Jesus' voice clearly, a rich, resonant sound that seemed to vibrate through the very air. "What do you want me to do for you?" The question, simple and direct, hung in the air between them, yet it carried an immense weight, an invitation to articulate the deepest longing of his soul. Bartimaeus paused, the dust of the road cool beneath his bare feet, the warmth of Jesus' presence enveloping him. He could feel the teacher's gaze upon him, a gaze that saw not just the blind beggar, but the man beneath, the man with hopes and dreams, with a spirit that yearned for more than mere existence. His voice, when it came, was not the desperate cry of a moment ago, but a steady, clear declaration, imbued with the conviction of a man who knew precisely what he sought. "Rabboni, that I may receive my sight." The title, Rabbi-Ochne, was not merely a respectful address, it was a term of profound reverence, acknowledging Jesus not just as a teacher, but as a master, a spiritual guide. It spoke of a deep understanding of Jesus' authority, a recognition that this man possessed the power to transcend the limitations of the physical world. He did not ask for alms, for comfort, or for relief from hunger. He asked for sight, for the restoration of the world that had been stolen from him, for the ability to perceive the beauty and complexity of creation that others took for granted. It was a request that encompassed not only physical vision but also a deeper, spiritual clarity, a desire to truly see the path ahead, to understand his place in the world. A gentle smile, Bartimaeus imagined, touched Jesus' lips. "Go your way, your faith has made you well." The words, spoken with a quiet authority that brooked no doubt, were not a question, but a pronouncement, a gift freely given. They resonated through Bartimaeus' very being, a warmth spreading from his chest outwards, tingling in his fingertips and toes. It was not a command to depart, but an affirmation, a release from the confines of his affliction. The emphasis on your faith struck him deeply. It was not merely Jesus' power, but Bartimaeus' own unwavering belief, his persistent hope, that had unlocked this miracle. He had dared to believe, and now that belief was being honored. In that very instant, a sensation unlike any he had ever known coursed through him. It began as a faint flicker, a sensation at the very back of his eyes, like a distant spark in the deepest darkness. It was not pain, but a profound, almost overwhelming pressure, as if something ancient and dormant was stirring to leave. The darkness, which had been his constant companion for so long, began to shift, to ripple, to thin. He squeezed his eyes shut, then slowly, tentatively, opened them again. At first, there was only a blur, a dazzling, indistinct wash of light and color. It was too much, too sudden, a riot of sensation that his deprived mind struggled to process. He blinked rapidly, tears, hot and unexpected, streaming down his dust-caked cheeks. The world, once a tapestry of sounds and smells, was now assaulting him with an entirely new dimension. He could see shapes, vague and shimmering, then, as his eyes adjusted, outlines began to sharpen, colors to deepen. The forms of the people around him, once just murmuring presences, now resolved into distinct figures, faces, garments, the glint of sunlight on their hair. He saw the expressions of awe and disbelief on the faces of the crowd, their mouths agape, their eyes wide with wonder. He saw the dusty road beneath his feet, the individual grains of sand, the faint tracks left by countless travelers. He saw the vibrant green of the date palms in the distance, a sight he had only ever imagined, now a breathtaking reality. The arid hills, once just a scent on the wind, now rose majestically against the impossibly blue sky, their contours sharp and clear. And then, his gaze found Jesus. The teacher stood before him, bathed in the golden light of the afternoon sun, his face etched with a gentle compassion, his eyes, Bartimaeus realized with a jolt, were indeed full of an infinite kindness, just as he had imagined. He saw the fine lines around Jesus' eyes, the texture of his simple tunic, the way the light caught the strands of his hair. It was a face that radiated peace, authority, and an unwavering love. The world, once a muted symphony, had exploded into a vibrant, dazzling masterpiece. He could see. He could truly see. A choked sob escaped his throat, a sound of pure, unadulterated joy. He fell to his knees, not in supplication, but in overwhelming gratitude, his hands pressed against the now visible earth. The miracle was not just in the light, but in the clarity, the detail, the sheer, breathtaking beauty of it all. He looked up again, his eyes devouring every detail of Jesus' face, etching it into his newly restored memory. This was the man who had given him back the world, who had seen past his blindness to the faith within him. The crowd, which had been holding its collective breath, erupted in a cacophony of shouts and exclamations. "He sees! He sees!" they cried, their voices filled with a mixture of wonder and praise. Some fell to their knees, others raised their hands to the heavens, their skepticism replaced by awe. They had witnessed a miracle, a profound act of divine power, and their hearts, once hardened by indifference, were now softened by the undeniable truth of what they had seen. The air thrummed with their exclamations, a wave of joyous sound washing over the Jericho road. Bartimaeus, still on his knees, felt a profound shift within him. It was not just his physical sight that had been restored, it was his very being. The years of darkness, of marginalization, of being unseen and unheard, were suddenly lifted. He was no longer just Bartimaeus, the blind beggar. He was Bartimaeus, the man who had seen, the man who had been touched by the divine. A new purpose, clear and compelling, began to form in his heart. He had been given a second chance, a new leave, and he knew, with an absolute certainty, what he must do. He rose to his feet, his gaze still fixed on Jesus, a silent vow forming in his heart. The world was now open to him, a vast expanse of sights and experiences he had only dreamed of. But there was only one path he wished to follow. He took a step towards Jesus, then another, his movements no longer tentative but firm, resolute. He would not return to his old leave, to the dusty roadside and the heavy cloak. He would walk a new path, a path illuminated by the light he had just received, a path that would lead him wherever this compassionate teacher went. He would follow, not out of obligation, but out of a boundless gratitude and a newfound, unwavering devotion. The journey had just begun. He would follow, not out of obligation, but out of a boundless gratitude and a newfound, unwavering devotion. The journey had just begun. A hush, profound and reverent, fell over the multitude as Bartimaeus, no longer blind, stood bathed in the golden light of the setting sun, his eyes wide and clear, taking in the world for the very first time. The dust motes, dancing in the air, shimmered like tiny jewels, and the distant, verdant front of the date palms of Jericho appeared as an impossibly vibrant green against the pale, arid hills. He saw the faces of the crowd, once a cacophony of indistinct murmurs, now a tapestry of expressions to awe, disbelief, and a dawning understanding. He saw the rough texture of the road beneath his feet, the deep ruts carved by countless chariots and carts, and the scattered pebbles that had once been only obstacles, now intricate patterns of light and shadow. A soft gasp rippled through the onlookers, a collective exhalation of wonder, as they witnessed the impossible made real before their very eyes. Bartimaeus's gaze, still adjusting to the overwhelming influx of light and form, finally settled upon the face of Jesus. The teacher stood there, a gentle smile gracing his lips, his eyes deep and knowing, reflecting the quiet joy of the moment. Bartimaeus saw the lines of compassion etched around those eyes, the serene strength in his posture, and a wave of emotion, so powerful it threatened to buckle his knees, washed over him. It was not just the physical sight that had been restored, but a deeper, spiritual vision, an understanding of the divine grace that had touched his life. He felt the warmth of the sun on his skin, a sensation he had known before, but now it was infused with the sight of its glorious source, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The air, once just a carrier of scents and sounds, now held the visible shimmer of heat rising from the parched earth, and the distant, shimmering outline of the Dead Sea, a vast, silver mirror under the vast expanse of the sky. He felt a lightness in his chest, a profound relief that transcended the mere absence of darkness. The weight of years, the burden of dependency, the sting of marginalization to all seemed to lift, dissolving into the vibrant air around him. He had spent a lifetime navigating by sound and touch, his world a symphony of echoes and textures, but now a new dimension had unfolded, a silent, breathtaking panorama. The rustle of the date palm fronds, a familiar whisper in the wind, now accompanied the sight of their elegant sway, each leaf a stroke of emerald against the deepening blue. The distant bleating of goats, once a mere sound, now conjured images of their shaggy forms grazing on the sparse scrubland. Every detail, every shade, every nuance of light and shadow was a revelation, a silent hymn of creation. He took a step, then another, his feet instinctively following the path Jesus had taken, his heart swelling with an uncontainable gratitude. The crowd, initially stunned into silence, now began to stir, a murmur of excited whispers growing into a crescendo of praise. "He sees! He truly sees," someone cried, their voice trembling with emotion. "A miracle! A true miracle," another exclaimed, their words echoing through the dusty air. The skepticism that had once laced their voices, the impatience that had urged Bartimaeus to be quiet, had vanished, replaced by an overwhelming sense of awe and reverence. They pressed closer, not out of curiosity, but out of a shared sense of wonder, their faces upturned, their eyes fixed on the man who had just received the gift of sight. Bartimaeus, oblivious to the clamor around him, kept his gaze fixed on Jesus, his steps unwavering. He noticed the intricate weave of Jesus's simple tunic, the way the light caught the folds of the fabric, the subtle shift of colors as he moved. He saw the dust clinging to the hem of Jesus's robe, a testament to the long, arduous journey he had undertaken, a journey that had, by divine design, brought him to this very spot, to this very roadside, to this very beggar. A profound sense of belonging, a feeling he had never truly known, settled over him. He was no longer an outcast, no longer a voice crying out from the periphery, but a part of something larger, something sacred. He reached Jesus, and without a word, fell to his knees, not in supplication, but in profound adoration. The rough texture of the earth beneath his knees, once a familiar part of his blind world, now felt different, imbued with the sacredness of the moment. He looked up at Jesus, his new eyes brimming with tears, tears of joy, of relief, of an overwhelming sense of peace. He saw the gentle compassion in Jesus's eyes, a love so vast it encompassed not just him, but all of humanity, all of creation. It was a love that saw beyond physical affliction, beyond social status, straight into the yearning heart. Jesus reached out, his hand resting gently on Bartimaeus' shoulder. The touch was light, yet it resonated deep within Bartimaeus, a confirmation, a blessing. "Your faith has made you whole," Jesus said, his voice soft, yet carrying an authority that stilled the remaining murmurs of the crowd. The words were not just an acknowledgement of the miracle, but a deeper affirmation of Bartimaeus' unwavering belief, his persistent cry in the face of dismissal. It was a testament to the power of a faith that refused to be silenced, a hope that refused to be extinguished. Bartimaeus rose, his movements fluid and unhesitant, his body no longer burdened by the limitations of blindness. He stood tall, his shoulders back, a quiet dignity emanating from him. The weathered lines on his face seemed to soften, and a radiant smile, born of pure, unadulterated joy, spread across his lips. He looked out at the world, at the vast, open sky, at the distant hills, at the vibrant green of the oasis, and a deep, peaceful sigh escaped him. The world was no longer a dark, uncertain place, but a canvas of infinite beauty, a testament to the glory of creation. The crowd, witnessing this profound transformation, erupted in a spontaneous chorus of praise to God. Their voices, once filled with human chatter and worldly concerns, now lifted in a unified song of adoration. They had seen the lame walk, the sick healed, but this, the restoration of sight to one who had never known it, felt particularly miraculous, a direct intervention from the divine. The air thrummed with their exclamations, their awe, their newfound belief. They had come to see Jesus, to hear his teachings, but they had witnessed something far more profound, a glimpse into the very heart of compassion and power. Bartimaeus, his eyes still drinking in every detail of the world around him, felt a powerful urge, an undeniable calling, to follow this teacher, this healer, this source of boundless grace. He turned, his gaze sweeping over the faces of the crowd, no longer seeing them as a faceless mass, but as individuals, each with their own stories, their own hopes, their own struggles. He felt a profound empathy, a connection born of shared humanity, a connection that had been denied to him for so long. He saw the wonder in their eyes, the dawning understanding, and he knew, with absolute certainty, that his life had been irrevocably changed. He took his place among the followers of Jesus, no longer a beggar by the roadside, but a disciple, a witness, a testament to the transformative power of faith. The journey ahead was uncertain, filled with unknown paths and challenges, but he faced it with a heart full of peace and a spirit brimming with hope. The gentle dawn of his new sight had broken, not just over the dusty road of Jericho, but within the very depths of his soul, illuminating a path of purpose and devotion. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the ancient city, but for Bartimaeus, the world had just begun to shine. He walked forward, his steps light, his spirit soaring, ready to embrace the boundless beauty and wonder of a world he could finally see. The sun, a fiery orb sinking low over the Judean hills, painted the western sky in hues of orange and deep violet, a spectacle Bartimaeus had never before witnessed with his own eyes. Each brushstroke of color, each deepening shade, was a revelation, a silent hymn sung by the heavens, and he absorbed it all with an almost childlike wonder, his gaze sweeping across the landscape that had for so long been a mere whisper in his mind. The dusty road, no longer a treacherous, unseen path, now revealed the intricate patterns of countless footsteps, the gleam of scattered pebbles, and the faint, shimmering heat rising from its surface as the day's warmth began to recede. The air, still carrying the faint, sweet scent of date palms from the oasis and the earthy tang of the arid hills, felt different too, imbued with the clarity that sight brought, as if the very molecules had sharpened into focus. He walked beside Jesus, not clinging as he once might have, but with a newfound confidence, his steps light and purposeful, yet still imbued with the profound reverence that had settled deep within his spirit. The clamor of the crowd, which had moments ago been a cacophony of shouts and murmurs, now seemed to soften, transforming into a gentle hum of awe and hushed conversation as they continued their journey towards the city gates. He could see their faces now, a kaleidoscope of expressions, some etched with wonder, others with a dawning understanding, and a few still bearing the faint residue of skepticism, their eyes wide as they watched the man who had been blind now walk with such unburdened grace. Bartimaeus felt their gazes, not with the familiar sting of pity or dismissal, but with a quiet dignity, knowing that his transformation was not just for himself, but a testament to the boundless love and power he had encountered. A wave of gratitude, so vast and deep it threatened to overwhelm him, washed over Bartimaeus. It was a gratitude that extended beyond the simple gift of sight, encompassing the very act of being seen, truly seen, by the teacher. For years, he had been an object, a fixture by the roadside, a voice to be ignored or silenced, his humanity often overlooked beneath the cloak of his affliction. But Jesus had looked at him, had listened to his desperate cry, and had met his faith with an answering grace that had shattered the walls of his isolation. He glanced at Jesus, whose profile was now illuminated by the soft, golden light of the setting sun, a serene and powerful presence. Bartimaeus felt an unshakable certainty bloom within him. His life, once a desolate stretch of waiting, was now inextricably linked to this man, this source of light and truth. He knew, with a clarity that surpassed even his newly restored vision, that he could not, would not, turn back to the shadows of his former existence. As they drew nearer to the city gates, the sounds of Jericho grew more distinct, to the rhythmic clatter of a blacksmith's hammer, the distant bleating of sheep, the lilting call of a street vendor hawking his wares, and the constant, underlying murmur of human activity. These were sounds he had always known, yet now they were accompanied by a visual tapestry that brought them to life in an entirely new dimension. He saw the weathered stones of the city walls, the intricate carvings above the archway, the bustling figures moving in and out, their cloaks swirling, their baskets laden. Each detail was a precious gift, a piece of the world he was now fully a part of. He noticed the texture of the dust on his own worn tunic, the subtle variations in the color of the stones beneath his feet, the way the light caught the individual strands of hair on a passing donkey. It was an overwhelming symphony of sensation, and he drank it in, every sight, every sound, every scent, with an insatiable thirst. A young boy, no older than 7 or 8, darted out from the edge of the crowd, his eyes wide with curiosity, and then, with a sudden burst of courage, he reached out a small, hesitant hand and gently touched the sleeve of Bartimaeus's cloak. Bartimaeus paused, his heart softening at the innocent gesture. He looked down at the boy, whose face was smudged with dirt but alight with an unadulterated wonder. For a moment, he saw himself in that boy's eyes, the unburdened curiosity, the raw openness to the miraculous. He offered a gentle, reassuring smile, a smile that felt new and unfamiliar on his own face, a smile that radiated the profound peace that had taken root within him. The boy, emboldened, smiled back, a gap-toothed grin, before scampering back to the safety of his mother's side, who watched the exchange with a mixture of awe and relief. Bartimaeus realized then that his healing was not just a personal miracle, it was a beacon, a story unfolding before the very eyes of the world, a testament to the transformative power of faith and compassion. He continued to walk, his gaze now fixed on the figure of Jesus, a silent vow forming in his heart. The path ahead, he knew, would not be without its challenges. He had lived a life of dependence, of begging, of navigating a world without sight. Now, he was stepping into an unknown future, a future where he would need to learn to see, not just with his eyes, but with a deeper understanding of his place in this newly revealed world. But the fear that might once have accompanied such uncertainty was absent, replaced by an unwavering sense of purpose. He felt a profound calling, a yearning to dedicate his restored life to following the one who had opened his eyes, not just to the physical world, but to the boundless possibilities of a life lived in the light. As they passed through the city gates, the sounds and sights intensified, a vibrant tapestry of life. The air grew thicker with the mingled aromas of spices, cooking fires, and the sweet perfume of night-blooming jasmine from hidden courtyards. Lanterns began to flicker to leaf to life in the deepening twilight, casting warm, dancing pools of light that chased away the encroaching shadows. Bartimaeus found himself marveling at the simple beauty of a clay pot, its rough texture and earthy color, or the intricate weave of a merchant's rug, its patterns now visible in exquisite detail. Each observation was a small, quiet celebration, a testament to the richness of a world he had only ever imagined. He felt a deep sense of belonging, a connection to the bustling life around him that had been denied for so long. He read the years spent by the roadside, the endless days of darkness, the constant ache of longing for a world he could not see. He read the dismissive voices, the averted gazes, the feeling of being an invisible presence, a burden. A pang of empathy, sharp and clear, pierced through his newfound joy. He thought of all those who still sat in darkness, both physical and spiritual, those who yearned for healing, for recognition, for a touch of grace. He knew, with a certainty that resonated deep within his soul, that his journey was not just about his own sight, but about bearing witness, about sharing the light he had received. The crowd, which had followed them into the city, now began to disperse, their murmurs fading into the general hum of evening activity. Some lingered, their eyes still fixed on Bartimaeus, as if trying to reconcile the image of the blind beggar with the man who now walked with such confident grace. Others turned to their own affairs, carrying the story of the miracle with them, a tale that would undoubtedly spread through the streets of Jericho and beyond, a seed of wonder planted in the fertile ground of human experience. Bartimaeus felt a quiet satisfaction in this, knowing that his story, once a tale of hardship, was now a testament to hope. Jesus continued to walk with a steady, unhurried pace, his presence a calm anchor amidst the vibrant chaos of the city. Bartimaeus kept pace, his steps falling naturally beside the teachers. He felt no need for words, no urgent desire to express the overwhelming emotions that swirled within him. The act of walking, of simply being there, in the light, beside Jesus, was expression enough. It was a silent conversation of the heart, a profound declaration of allegiance. He knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that his life's purpose had been irrevocably altered. He was no longer Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, the blind beggar of Jericho. He was Bartimaeus, the man who had seen the light, and who would now follow it wherever it led. As the last vestiges of daylight faded, and the stars began to prickle through the velvet expanse of the night sky, Bartimaeus looked up, his new eyes tracing the familiar constellations he had only ever heard described. Each star was a tiny, brilliant jewel, a distant sun, and he felt a profound sense of connection to the vast, unfolding universe. It was a world of infinite beauty, of endless wonder, and he was now, truly, a part of it. The journey through Jericho continued, a quiet procession in the gathering dusk, but for Bartimaeus, it was a journey into a new dawn, a path illuminated by the grace he had received, a path he would follow with unwavering devotion, his heart overflowing with gratitude and a peace that transcended all understanding. The gentle rhythm of their footsteps on the ancient stones, the soft murmur of the evening breeze, and the distant sounds of the city settling into night, all combined to create a symphony of serenity, a lullaby for a soul reborn into the light. The gentle rhythm of their footsteps on the ancient stones, the soft murmur of the evening breeze, and the distant sounds of the city settling into night, all combined to create a symphony of serenity, a lullaby for a soul reborn into the light. Bartimaeus, no longer merely a name whispered with pity on the dusty Jericho road. but a man made whole, walked with a lightness he had never known, each step a testament to the miraculous transformation that had unfolded just hours before. The world, once a symphony of sounds and scents, had now burst forth in a riot of color and form, a visual feast that overwhelmed his senses in the most exquisite way imaginable. He had spent a lifetime constructing images in his mind from the fragments of sound and touch, but the reality far surpassed any dream, any desperate hope he had ever dared to harbor. As they moved away from the main thoroughfare, the crowd thinned, their excited chatter fading into the background, replaced by the rustling of palm fronds and the distant bleating of goats. Bartimaeus found himself walking beside the Master, a man whose presence radiated an inexplicable calm, a profound wisdom that seemed to settle upon everyone in his orbit. He stole glances at Jesus, studying the gentle lines of his face, the compassionate depth in his eyes, the very features he had only imagined in his darkest hours of longing. There was a quiet strength in Jesus's stride, a purposeful grace that spoke of a journey far grander than merely traversing the roads of Judea. Bartimaeus felt an overwhelming surge of gratitude, a feeling so potent it threatened to spill from his eyes, not as tears of sorrow, but of an unburdened joy that resonated deep within his soul. He had been an outcast, a shadow on the periphery of life, and now he was not only seen, but he was seeing, truly seeing, for the first time. The air grew cooler as the sun dipped further, painting the western sky in hues of fiery orange and soft lavender, a spectacle Bartimaeus watched with wide-eyed wonder, his breath catching in his throat. He had read descriptions of sunsets, of the sky ablaze with color, but to witness it, to feel the last warmth of the day on his newly opened eyes, was an experience that transcended mere words. He felt a profound connection to the earth, to the vastness of the heavens, a sense of belonging that had been utterly absent from his previous existence. The world was no longer a barrier, a constant reminder of his limitations, but an invitation, an endless expanse of beauty waiting to be explored. He noticed the intricate patterns on the leaves of a nearby olive tree, the delicate veins, the way the light caught the dust on its ancient bark. He saw the subtle variations in the stones beneath his feet, the tiny wildflowers pushing through cracks, each detail a marvel, a testament to the richness of creation he had been denied for so long. He remembered the years of darkness, the constant reliance on the kindness of strangers, the humiliating dependence, the gnawing ache of loneliness. He remembered the dismissive tones, the averted gazes, the feeling of being invisible even in the midst of a bustling crowd. Now, those memories felt distant, like echoes from a forgotten dream, replaced by the vibrant immediacy of his new reality. He reached out a hand, tentatively touching a rough stone wall they passed, feeling its cool, ancient surface, a sensation that was both familiar and entirely new, imbued with the clarity of sight. His fingers, once solely his guides, now merely confirmed what his eyes already knew, a harmonious dance of senses. As they walked, Bartimaeus noticed the way Jesus interacted with those who approached him, offering a kind word, a gentle touch, a moment of profound connection. He observed the quiet devotion of the disciples, their faces etched with a mixture of awe and understanding. He felt a burgeoning desire to be a part of this, not just a recipient of a miracle, but a participant in this unfolding story. His heart, once heavy with the weight of his affliction, now pulsed with a new purpose, a clear direction. He had cried out for mercy, for sight, and he had received it in abundance. Now, he wanted to give back, to serve, to follow this man who had so profoundly changed the trajectory of his life. They eventually reached a quiet dwelling on the outskirts of Jericho, a place where Jesus and his disciples would rest for the night. The air inside was warm, scented with baking bread and herbs, a comforting aroma that filled Bartimaeus with a sense of peace. He sat quietly, observing everything, absorbing every detail, every nuance of human interaction. He watched the flickering lamplight dance across the faces of the disciples, saw the expressions of weariness and devotion, read the soft murmur of their conversations. He felt a profound sense of belonging, a feeling he had craved for so long. He was no longer an outsider, but a part of something larger, something meaningful. Later, as the night deepened and the sounds of the household settled into a gentle hum, Bartimaeus found himself gazing out a small window. The moon, a luminous disk in the velvety sky, cast long, soft shadows across the landscape. He could see the distant outlines of the arid hills, the dark silhouettes of palm trees swaying gently in the breeze. The stars, countless pinpricks of light, glittered with an intensity he had never imagined. He felt a profound sense of awe, a quiet reverence for the vastness of the universe and the intricate beauty of the world. His physical sight had been restored, but he realized that something far deeper had also occurred. His spiritual sight had been awakened. He saw the world not just with his eyes, but with a newfound understanding, a deeper appreciation for the divine order, for the interconnectedness of all things. He reflected on his journey, the years of darkness, the desperate cry, the moment of healing, and now, this quiet, profound peace. He understood that his blindness had not been a curse, but perhaps, in an unexpected way, a crucible that had forged within him an unwavering faith, a persistence that had ultimately led him to this moment. He had learned to listen, to discern, to feel the subtle vibrations of the world around him, skills that now deepened his appreciation for his restored vision. He knew that his life would never be the same, that the path ahead was one of discovery, of learning, of following the light he had been given. A soft sigh escaped his lips, not of sadness or regret, but of utter contentment. The weight of his past had lifted, replaced by a lightness of being, a joyous anticipation for the dawn. He thought of the dusty Jericho road, the place where his old life had ended and his new one had begun, and he felt no bitterness, only gratitude. He was Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, a man who had once sat in darkness, but now walked in the glorious light, his heart brimming with a quiet strength, his spirit ignited by a profound and enduring hope. The echoes of his desperate cry had faded, replaced by the quiet music of a transformed soul, ready to embrace whatever journey lay ahead, knowing he would walk it not alone, but in the footsteps of the one who had called him from the shadows into the boundless expanse of light. The gentle rhythm of his own breathing, the soft rustle of the night outside, and the quiet peace within the dwelling, all wove together into a comforting tapestry, lulling him into a deep and restorative sleep, a sleep filled with the vibrant colors of his new world, a world he would greet with open eyes and an open heart in the morning. The gentle rhythm of his own breathing, the soft rustle of the night outside, and the quiet peace within the dwelling, all wove together into a comforting tapestry, lulling him into a deep and restorative sleep, a sleep filled with the vibrant colors of his new world, a world he would greet with open eyes and an open heart in the morning. As the first tendrils of dawn painted the eastern sky in hues of soft rose and muted gold, Bartimaeus stirred, a profound sense of anticipation unfurling within him like a blossoming desert flower. The cool morning air, still holding the faint sweetness of date palms from the oasis, brushed against his face as he opened his eyes, not to the familiar, formless grey, but to the intricate dance of light and shadow that defined the world. He saw the rough-hewn timbers of the ceiling above him, the soft, woven textures of the blanket covering him, and the gentle, sleeping form of the woman who had offered him shelter. A quiet gasp escaped his lips, a sound of pure wonder that he quickly muffled, not wishing to disturb her peaceful slumber. He lay there for a long moment, simply absorbing, allowing his gaze to wander, tracing the lines of the simple room, each detail a revelation, each color a song. The world was sharper, richer, more vibrant than he had ever dared to imagine. He rose with a newfound lightness in his step, moving towards the small, open doorway. The sun was just beginning its ascent, casting long, dramatic shadows across the dusty path outside. The air was crisp, carrying the faint, earthy scent of damp soil from a nearby irrigation ditch, mingled with the distant, awakening sounds of Jericho to a donkey's bray, the clatter of a potter's wheel, the murmur of early morning conversations. He stepped out, his bare feet meeting the cool, fine dust of the ground, a sensation he now perceived with an almost overwhelming clarity. He looked towards the horizon, where the jagged peaks of the Judean wilderness were silhouetted against the brightening sky, their ancient forms now distinct and awe-inspiring. He could see individual stones, the subtle variations in their color, the way the light caught their rough surfaces. It was a sight that filled him with an almost unbearable joy, a quiet ecstasy that resonated deep within his soul. He walked slowly, deliberately, down the narrow path, his eyes feasting on every detail. He saw the intricate patterns of leaves on a nearby fig tree, the delicate veins, the way they trembled in the nascent breeze. He saw the vibrant crimson of a poppy pushing through the parched earth, a splash of audacious color against the muted tones of the landscape. Each step was a discovery, each breath a prayer of gratitude. He felt a profound connection to the earth beneath his feet, to the sky above, to the very air he breathed. The world was no longer a series of indistinct sensations, but a tapestry of exquisite detail, woven with threads of light and shadow, color and form. He paused by a small stream, its water gurgling softly over smooth stones, and knelt, dipping his hands into the cool, clear flow. He watched the water ripple, the sunlight fracturing into 1,000 dancing points of light on its surface, and then brought his wet hands to his face, feeling the cool moisture against his skin, a sensation so vivid it brought a fresh wave of tears to his eyes. These were tears of pure, unadulterated joy, tears that cleansed and renewed. As the morning progressed, Bartimaeus found himself drawn towards the sounds of the awakening city. He walked with a purpose now, not the hesitant shuffle of a man reliant on others, but the steady stride of one who knew his direction. He passed by vendors setting up their stalls, their voices still soft, not yet reaching the full clamor of the marketplace. He saw the vibrant colors of woven cloths, the gleaming surfaces of polished pottery, the rich hues of spices piled high in earthenware bowls. The aromas were intoxicating, the sweet, heavy scent of dates, the sharp tang of olives, the earthy smell of freshly baked bread. He watched a baker pull a steaming loaf from a clay oven, the heat shimmering in the air, and felt a pang of hunger, not just for food, but for the fullness of life itself. He realized, with a sudden clarity, that his healing was not merely the restoration of his physical sight, but the awakening of all his senses, a complete immersion into the vibrant symphony of existence. He saw faces now, the expressions of people passing by, to a mother comforting her child, an old man haggling over prices, a group of friends laughing together. He saw the subtle nuances of emotion, the fleeting shadows of thought that crossed their features. It was overwhelming, yet exhilarating. He understood, in that moment, the true meaning of connection, the silent language spoken between eyes, the shared humanity that bound them all. He felt a deep surge of empathy, a desire to understand, to share, to be a part of this intricate dance of life. His years of marginalization, of being unseen and unheard, now seemed like a distant dream, a shadow from which he had emerged into the brilliant light of day. He was no longer an outcast, but a participant, a witness, a man fully present in the world. Bartimaeus continued to walk, his heart swelling with an emotion he could only describe as profound gratitude. He thought of the man who had called him, the voice that had cut through the cacophony of the crowd, the touch that had banished the darkness. He knew, with an unwavering certainty, that his life would never be the same. He was not just healed, he was transformed. The world had opened up to him, not just visually, but spiritually. He saw the divine in the mundane, the miraculous in the ordinary. The sunlight glinting off a distant rooftop, the intricate pattern of dust motes dancing in a sunbeam, the gentle sway of a palm tree in the breeze, to each was a testament to the beauty and wonder of creation. He found himself walking towards the eastern gate of Jericho, the direction he knew the teacher and his disciples had been heading. He felt an undeniable pull, a quiet conviction that his path now lay in following the one who had given him sight. It was not a decision born of obligation, but of a deep, inner knowing, a profound sense of purpose that had ignited within him. He wanted to learn, to understand, to witness more of the compassion and wisdom he had experienced firsthand. He wanted to share the story of his transformation, to be a living testament to the power of faith and the boundless mercy he had received. As he reached the outskirts of the city, the sounds of the marketplace began to fade, replaced by the rustle of leaves and the distant chirping of birds. He looked back at Jericho, its ancient walls now bathed in the golden light of the rising sun, a city that had once been a place of despair for him, but was now a symbol of his rebirth. He felt no bitterness, no resentment, only a quiet sense of peace. His past was simply that, a past that had led him to this moment, to this profound awakening. He turned his gaze eastward, towards the open road, a path stretching out before him, inviting him to step into a future he could now clearly see. The air grew warmer as the sun climbed higher, and the landscape began to shimmer with the heat of the approaching day. Yet, for Bartimaeus, there was only a sense of cool tranquility. He walked with a steady, unhurried pace, his eyes scanning the horizon, his heart open to whatever lay ahead. The dust of the road, once a symbol of his confinement, now felt like a soft carpet beneath his feet, each particle illuminated by the glorious light that filled his world. He was no longer just Bartimaeus, the blind beggar of Jericho. He was Bartimaeus, the man who had seen, the man who had been called, the man who now followed. The distant hills, once a vague, oppressive presence, now stood in majestic clarity, their contours softened by the gentle haze of the morning. A lone bird soared overhead, its wings catching the sunlight, a tiny, perfect silhouette against the vast, azure sky. Bartimaeus watched it until it disappeared from view, feeling a kinship with its freedom, its effortless flight. He closed his eyes for a moment, not to retreat into darkness, but to savor the inner light that now shone so brightly within him, a light that transcended even the most brilliant sun. When he opened them again, the world was still there, vibrant and welcoming, a boundless expanse waiting to be explored. He took a deep, contented breath, the scent of the desert, the promise of the journey, and the quiet peace of his heart all mingling into a single, harmonious note. The road stretched out, an invitation, and he stepped onto it, his new life unfolding with every deliberate, confident stride beneath the vast, silent Jericho stars, now unseen but ever present, watching over his peaceful journey into the boundless light of a new day. The cool desert night, though unseen now, still held its quiet embrace around Bartimaeus as he walked, each step a testament to the miracle that had unfolded, a rhythm of newfound freedom echoing in the soft dust of the Jericho road. The vibrant hues of the setting sun had long since faded, replaced by a deep indigo sky studded with countless, shimmering stars, each one a tiny beacon in the vast expanse above, and he felt a profound connection to their distant, ancient light, a sense of belonging he had never known before. The air, which had been thick with the scent of dust and the murmur of the crowd, now carried the subtle fragrance of date palms and the faint, sweet perfume of night-blooming jasmine from the gardens within Jericho's walls, a symphony of scents that his newly awakened senses drank in with an almost childlike wonder. He could hear the distant, drowsy bray of a donkey, the gentle rustle of leaves in a passing breeze, and the soft, rhythmic crunch of his own sandals on the path, sounds that had once been mere indistinct background noise, now sharp and clear and full of meaning. He walked for a long while, not with a destination in mind, but simply for the sheer joy of movement, of seeing the path unfold before him, the shadows of the olive trees stretching long and dark across the ground, and the subtle contours of the landscape revealing themselves with every shift of the moonlight. The crowd that had witnessed his healing had dispersed, their excited chatter fading into the distance, leaving him in a peaceful solitude that was both novel and deeply comforting, a space where he could truly absorb the magnitude of his transformation. He paused by a gnarled, ancient sycamore fig tree, its branches spreading wide like welcoming arms, and ran his fingers over its rough bark, feeling the texture, the intricate patterns that his eyes now clearly perceived, a small, intimate discovery in the grand tapestry of his new world. He read the feel of the sun on his eyelids, the warmth that had been his only connection to the light, and now, with open eyes, he saw the moon, a luminous pearl hanging low in the sky, casting a soft, ethereal glow over everything, transforming the familiar into something utterly magical. A gentle sigh escaped his lips, not of sorrow or longing, but of an overwhelming, quiet gratitude that swelled within his chest, a feeling so profound it felt like a silent song. He thought of the Nazarene, Jesus, whose voice had cut through the cacophony of his despair, whose compassion had reached out and touched the very core of his being, and a wave of devotion washed over him, a deep, unwavering commitment to follow this man, this healer, this bringer of light. He knew, with an absolute certainty that resonated through every fiber of his newly whole body, that his life would never again be defined by the darkness, but by the brilliant, boundless light he had been given, a light that illuminated not just the world outside, but the very path of his soul. As the first faint streaks of dawn began to paint the eastern sky with soft hues of rose and gold, Bartimaeus found himself nearing the outskirts of a small village, its quiet home still slumbering beneath the fading stars. The air grew cooler, carrying the faint scent of wood smoke and freshly baked bread, promising the gentle awakening of daily life, a stark contrast to the bustling, dusty roads of Jericho he had left behind. He saw a well, its stone rim worn smooth by countless hands, and a small flock of sheep huddled together near a shepherd, who was slowly rousing himself from a night spent under the open sky, his cloak still heavy with dew. The simplicity of the scene, the quiet dignity of ordinary existence, struck him with a fresh wonder, each detail a precious gift, a brushstroke in the vibrant painting of his new reality. He approached the well, feeling the cool, smooth stone beneath his fingertips, and drew a bucket of water, its surface reflecting the burgeoning light of the morning, a perfect, shimmering mirror of the world. He drank deeply, the water cool and sweet, cleansing not just his parched throat but also the last vestiges of his old, sightless life, preparing him for whatever lay ahead. He knew he could not simply return to his old life, to the roadside where he had begged for so many years, for that existence no longer held any meaning or purpose for him. His spirit yearned for something more, a way to honor the gift he had received. His father, Timaeus, whose name meant honorable or highly prized, and who had likely carried the weight of his son's blindness with a quiet sorrow, would surely be overjoyed, but Bartimaeus felt a compelling urge to first find the Nazarene, to walk alongside him, to learn from him, to serve him in any way he could. He remembered the feeling of Jesus' hand, gentle yet firm, on his arm, the profound peace that had settled over him in that sacred moment of healing, and he knew, deep in his heart, that his place was now with this extraordinary man. The path of discipleship, though perhaps arduous and uncertain, called to him with an irresistible clarity, a promise of purpose far greater than any comfort or familiarity he might find in his former life. As the sun climbed higher, casting long, warm rays across the rolling hills, Bartimaeus continued his journey, following the general direction he knew Jesus and his disciples had taken, towards the Jordan River and beyond. He walked with a light step, his senses alive to every nuance of the landscape, the vibrant green of new growth after the winter rains, the stark, beautiful ochre of the dry earth, and the distant, shimmering blue of the Dead Sea, a vast, silent expanse visible from the higher elevations. He saw small, hardy wildflowers pushing through cracks in the rocks, their delicate petals a riot of unexpected color, and felt the gentle breeze whisper through the tall grasses, carrying the earthy scent of the wilderness. The road itself, a well-worn track carved by countless travelers and their burdens, now seemed less a path of hardship and more a ribbon of connection, leading him towards an unknown but eagerly anticipated future. He passed other travelers, merchants with laden donkeys, families on pilgrimage, and solitary figures like himself, and exchanged quiet greetings, his eyes meeting theirs with an open, confident gaze, a silent acknowledgement of his restored dignity. He noticed the intricate weave of a woman's headscarf, the determined set of a man's jaw, the playful chase of children, details that had been utterly invisible to him before, now forming a rich and complex tapestry of human life. He reflected on the nature of sight itself, realizing it was not merely the ability to perceive light and shadow, but a profound capacity to connect with the world, to understand its depths and nuances, to truly see the souls of others. He understood that his physical blindness had, in a strange way, sharpened his inner perception, allowing him to listen more intently, to feel more deeply, to discern truths that often eluded those who relied solely on their eyes. Yet, the physical world, in its breathtaking beauty and intricate detail, was a revelation, a constant source of awe that filled him with an almost unbearable joy. He felt a profound sense of hakarat hatov, a deep Jewish value of recognizing and expressing gratitude for the good in his life, understanding that this gift was not merely for himself, but for a greater purpose yet to be revealed. By late morning, the sun beat down with a fierce intensity, reminding him of the desert's relentless power, and he sought the shade of a small cluster of date palms, their fronds rustling softly overhead like whispered secrets. He broke bread he had carried from Jericho, savoring its simple taste, and drank from his water skin, feeling the cool liquid refresh his entire being, a simple meal made extraordinary by the context of his new vision. He watched a desert falcon circle high above, its keen eyes scanning the vast landscape below, and admired its effortless grace, its mastery of the boundless sky, feeling a kinship with its freedom, its effortless flight. He closed his eyes for a moment, not to retreat into darkness, but to savor the inner light that now shone so brightly within him, a light that transcended even the most brilliant sun. When he opened them again, the world was still there, vibrant and welcoming, a boundless expanse waiting to be explored. He took a deep, contented breath, the scent of the desert, the promise of the journey, and the quiet peace of his heart all mingling into a single, harmonious note. The road stretched out, an invitation, and he stepped onto it, his new life unfolding with every deliberate, confident stride beneath the vast, silent Jericho stars, now unseen but ever present, watching over his peaceful journey into the boundless light of a new day. The following day, Bartimaeus continued his journey eastward, the sun rising behind him, painting the rugged landscape in hues of fiery orange and deep purple, a spectacle that filled his soul with an almost unbearable beauty. He walked with a renewed sense of purpose, his heart attuned to the subtle shifts in the terrain, the gentle slope of the land descending towards the Jordan River, a ribbon of green winding through the arid expanse. The air grew heavier, more humid, as he neared the river, carrying the distinct scent of damp earth and reeds, a welcome change from the dry, dusty air of Jericho. He passed through small, scattered settlements, their mud brick homes blending seamlessly with the earth, where children played in the dusty lanes and women drew water from communal wells, their laughter and chatter a sweet melody to his newly opened ears. He recalled the stories he had read of the Jordan, a river steeped in history and spiritual significance, the place where John the Baptist had preached and where Jesus himself had been baptized, marking the beginning of his public ministry. The thought of approaching such a sacred place filled him with a quiet reverence, a sense of stepping onto hallowed ground, where the veil between the earthly and the divine felt thinner, more permeable. He imagined the crowds that must have gathered there, the fervent sermons, the solemn baptisms, and felt a profound connection to the countless souls who had sought renewal and transformation in its waters. As he finally caught sight of the river, its waters a murky green flowing between banks dense with tamarisk and willow trees, a deep sense of peace settled over him, a feeling of having arrived at a threshold. He found a quiet spot beneath a spreading sycamore, its broad leaves offering generous shade from the increasingly warm sun, and watched the river flow by, its ceaseless movement a metaphor for the passage of time, for the journey of life itself. He noticed the delicate dance of dragonflies above the water, their iridescent wings catching the sunlight, and the subtle ripple of the current as small fish darted beneath the surface, each detail a marvel of creation. He closed his eyes again, not in the old, familiar darkness, but to live, truly live, to the gentle murmur of the river, the soft rustle of the leaves, the distant call of a bird, sounds that now held a richness and depth he had never before appreciated. In this moment of quiet contemplation, a new understanding began to unfold within him, a realization that his healing was not just about seeing the physical world, but about perceiving the spiritual truths that lay beneath its surface, about recognizing the divine hand in every aspect of existence. He considered the name he had been given, Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, a name that had always linked him to his father, a name that, in its Greek origin, could also imply son of honor. But for so long, his blindness had overshadowed any honor, reducing him to a figure of pity, a beggar by the roadside. Now, with his sight restored, he felt a profound shift in his identity, a sense of rebirth, as though a new name, one signifying son of light or son of faith, was being wound into the very fabric of his being. He knew that in Jewish tradition, a change of name often signified a profound change in destiny or a new mission, and he felt that deep within his soul, a new mission was indeed stirring. He imagined himself no longer as Bartimaeus, the blind beggar, but as Bartimaeus, the one who sees, the one who follows, the one who bears witness to the light. As the afternoon wore on, a small group of travelers approached the river, their voices carrying softly on the breeze, and Bartimaeus recognized, with a surge of excitement, the familiar figures of Jesus and his disciples. They moved with a gentle purpose, their steps measured, their faces reflecting the weariness of travel but also a quiet determination. Bartimaeus rose to his feet, his heart pounding with anticipation, and waited for them to draw near, a silent prayer of gratitude forming on his lips. When Jesus' gaze met his, a warm, knowing smile touched the Nazarene's face, a silent acknowledgement of the miracle, of the transformation that had taken place. "Bartimaeus," Jesus said, his voice soft and resonant, "you have found your way." Bartimaeus knelt before him, tears welling in his newly seeing eyes, not of sorrow but of profound love and devotion. "Rabbi," he responded, his voice thick with emotion, "I have come to follow you, to serve you, to walk wherever you may lead." Jesus extended a hand, helping him to rise, his touch gentle and reassuring. "Rise, my son," he said, "for the path ahead is long, and there is much to see, much to learn, and much to share." The disciples, who had gathered around, offered warm greetings, their faces reflecting a mixture of wonder and acceptance, their earlier skepticism replaced by a quiet respect for the man who had so boldly followed their master. Peter, ever the most direct, clapped him on the shoulder, a hearty welcome into their small, itinerant community. John, with his thoughtful eyes, offered a gentle nod, a silent acknowledgement of the shared journey. They continued their journey together, walking alongside the Jordan, the river's gentle current a constant companion, its presence a reminder of the cleansing and renewal that had brought Bartimaeus to this new life. The landscape began to change subtly, becoming a little greener, a little more cultivated, as they moved further north, away from the stark aridity of the Dead Sea region. They passed small fields of barley and wheat, their young shoots swaying gently in the breeze, and groves of olive trees, their ancient, twisted trunks bearing witness to centuries of life and harvest. Bartimaeus absorbed every detail, every shade of green, every glint of sunlight on a distant rock, his mind a sponge soaking up the visual feast he had been denied for so long. As evening approached, they sought refuge in a small, welcoming village nestled among the hills, its homes clustered together like a family, their windows glowing with the warm light of oil lamps. The hospitality of the villagers was immediate and generous, a deeply ingrained custom in Jewish culture, offering weary travelers food, water for washing dusty feet, and a place to rest. A kind woman, her face etched with the wisdom of years, offered Bartimaeus a simple meal of lentil stew and fresh bread, and he ate with a profound appreciation, tasting each flavor, feeling the warmth spread through him, a simple act transformed into a sacred communion. He found himself sharing his story, his voice filled with a quiet awe, speaking of the long years of darkness and the miraculous moment of light, and the villagers listened with rapt attention, their faces reflecting wonder and a deep understanding of the divine. Later, as the stars began to emerge in the velvet sky, Bartimaeus sat with Jesus and the disciples around a small, crackling fire, its flames dancing and casting flickering shadows on their faces. The air was cool and still, carrying the scent of wood smoke and the sweet fragrance of the evening. Jesus spoke softly, his voice a gentle melody in the quiet night, sharing parables and teachings that resonated deeply within Bartimaeus' soul, illuminating truths he had only dimly perceived before. He spoke of the kingdom of God not as a distant realm, but as a present reality, a seed growing within the hearts of those who believed, a light that could transform the darkest corners of the world. He emphasized the importance of compassion, of serving others, of seeing the divine spark in every person, regardless of their station or circumstance. Bartimaeus listened intently, his gaze fixed on Jesus' face, absorbing every word, every nuance of his expression, feeling a profound sense of belonging, of being precisely where he was meant to be. He realized that his physical healing was merely the beginning, a gateway to a deeper, spiritual sight, a journey into the heart of God's boundless love. He understood that true discipleship was not just about following a teacher, but about embodying his teachings, about becoming a living testament to the transformative power of faith and compassion. The quiet moments around the fire, the shared stories, the gentle wisdom, wove themselves into the fabric of his being, strengthening his resolve, deepening his faith, and preparing him for the unknown paths that lay ahead. The next morning, they continued their journey, heading further north along the Jordan Valley, the landscape becoming increasingly fertile, dotted with small farms and groves of fruit trees. The air was filled with the chirping of birds and the distant bleating of sheep, a symphony of pastoral life that resonated deeply with Bartimaeus. He walked beside John, the youngest of the disciples, a quiet, thoughtful man with eyes that seemed to hold a deep understanding of spiritual truths. They spoke little, but their shared silence was companionable, a comfortable presence that needed no words. John pointed out a distant cluster of buildings on the eastern bank of the Jordan, explaining that it was near Bethany beyond the Jordan, a place of great significance where John the Baptist had baptized many, and where Jesus had spent time teaching. Bartimaeus gazed across the river, imagining the throngs of people who had come to that very spot seeking repentance and renewal, feeling the weight of history and holiness in the very air. He thought of the symbolic crossing of the Jordan, a boundary between the wilderness and the promised land, a metaphor for the spiritual journey from an old life to a new one, and felt a profound connection to those who had crossed before him. As they walked, Bartimaeus recounted more of his life before the miracle, the long, monotonous days spent by the roadside, the constant ache of hunger, the sting of indifference from passers-by, the profound isolation of his darkness. He spoke of the sounds that had been his only connection to the world, the rumble of carts, the distant shouts of merchants, the distinct cadence of different voices, and how he had learned to interpret them, to create a mental map of his surroundings. John listened patiently, his gaze compassionate, offering a quiet understanding that warmed Bartimaeus's heart. It was a different world, Bartimaeus mused, a world of shadows and echoes, where every touch, every scent, every sound was amplified, becoming my eyes. He paused, looking out at the vibrant landscape, the sun glinting off the river. Now, it is as if I have been born anew, a child learning to see for the first time, each leaf, each stone, each cloud a fresh revelation. John nodded slowly. Indeed, Bartimaeus. The Master often speaks of seeing with the heart, of perceiving the truth that lives beyond the surface. Your years in darkness may have prepared you for a deeper kind of sight, a spiritual vision that many who possess physical eyes often lack. This conversation resonated deeply with Bartimaeus, confirming his own growing understanding that his healing was not just about the restoration of physical vision, but about a profound spiritual awakening. He realized that his past suffering, though arduous, had not been in vain. It had shaped him, refined him, prepared him to receive this extraordinary gift with a humility and gratitude that might have been absent had he always possessed his sight. He felt a profound sense of purpose stirring within him, a desire to use his restored vision not just for his own benefit, but to help others see, both physically and spiritually. They continued their journey for several days, moving through the fertile lands of Perea, a region east of the Jordan, where the landscape was a mosaic of cultivated fields, small villages, and rolling hills. The air was often fragrant with the scent of blossoming fruit trees and the earthy aroma of freshly tilled soil, a testament to the diligent labor of the local farmers. Bartimaeus marveled at the intricate patterns of the fields, the neat rows of crops, the way the light played upon the different textures of the plants, each a small masterpiece of nature. He observed the daily rhythms of life in these villages, the early morning bustle as people went to their work, the midday quiet during the heat of the sun, and the evening gatherings where families shared meals and stories under the vast, star-strewn sky. One evening, as they rested in a small, hospitable village, Jesus was invited to share a meal with a local family, a common practice of hospitality in that culture, and Bartimaeus, along with several other disciples, joined him. The meal was simple yet abundant: fresh bread, olives, figs, and a hearty stew, all prepared with care and offered with genuine warmth. Bartimaeus found himself seated near the head of the table, an honored guest, a stark contrast to his former life where he would have been relegated to the periphery, if acknowledged at all. He watched the faces of the family members, their expressions animated as they spoke, their eyes reflecting kindness and curiosity, and felt a deep sense of inclusion, of belonging. During the meal, the host, a man with a kind, weathered face, asked Bartimaeus about his journey, and Bartimaeus, with a calm and clear voice, recounted the story of his healing. He spoke of the darkness, the desperation, the desperate cry, and the sudden, overwhelming light, his words painting a vivid picture for those gathered around the table. The family listened with hushed reverence, their eyes wide with wonder, some shedding quiet tears of empathy and joy. Bartimaeus emphasized not only the physical restoration of his sight but also the profound spiritual awakening that had accompanied it, the realization of God's boundless love and the transformative power of faith. "It was not just my eyes that were opened," Bartimaeus explained, his voice soft but firm, "but my heart, my very soul. I had heard of the Nazarene, but now I have truly seen him, not just with these eyes, but with the eyes of my spirit." He paused, looking around at the faces illuminated by the flickering oil lamp. "And I have seen, too, the goodness in each of you, the light of God reflected in your kindness and your generosity." The host, deeply moved, reached across the table and placed a hand on Bartimaeus' arm. "You have been blessed, my son," he said, "and your story is a blessing to us all, a reminder of the miracles that walk among us." Later that night, as the village slept under a canopy of stars, Bartimaeus lay awake, reflecting on the day's events, on the shared meal and the profound connection he had felt with the family. He understood that Jesus' ministry was not just about grand pronouncements and miraculous healings, but also about these intimate moments of human connection, these shared meals that broke down barriers and fostered a sense of community and acceptance. He realized that by eating with all manner of people, Jesus was demonstrating the inclusivity of God's love, inviting everyone into a deeper relationship, a spiritual fellowship that transcended social distinctions. He felt a profound sense of gratitude, not just for his restored sight, but for the opportunity to witness and participate in this unfolding story, to be a part of something far greater than himself. This new life, this journey with Jesus, was a constant lesson in faith, compassion, and the boundless possibilities of transformation. He closed his eyes, a peaceful smile on his lips, and drifted into a deep, contented sleep, his dreams filled with vibrant colors and the gentle murmur of the Jordan River, a river that had carried him from darkness into an unimaginable light. The days that followed continued in a gentle rhythm of travel and teaching, as Jesus and his disciples, with Bartimaeus now among them, journeyed through the diverse landscapes of Perea. They moved at a measured pace, often pausing in villages and towns, where Jesus would teach in the synagogues or by the roadside, drawing crowds who hungered for his words. Bartimaeus, ever attentive, absorbed every lesson, every parable, feeling his understanding of the world and his place within it expanding with each passing moment. He observed the subtle ways Jesus interacted with people, the compassionate gaze, the patient listening, the gentle touch, and learned that true leadership was rooted in humility and selfless service. He found himself drawn to the quiet strength of Jesus, the unwavering certainty in his eyes, and the profound love that emanated from his very being. Bartimaeus often walked near the back of the group, allowing himself to simply observe, to soak in the atmosphere, to witness the unfolding drama of Jesus' ministry. He saw the sick brought to Jesus, their faces etched with pain and desperation, and watched as hope transformed their features with a single word or touch from the Nazarene. He saw the skeptical Pharisees, their faces hardened by tradition and judgment, and the open-hearted common people, their spirits eager to receive the message of the kingdom. One afternoon, as they walked along a dusty path lined with ancient olive trees, the sun warm on their backs, Bartimaeus fell into step beside Peter, whose boisterous energy was a constant presence within the group. Peter, with his fisherman's hands and a heart as vast as the Sea of Galilee, had a way of making everyone feel welcome, his laughter often echoing through the quiet moments of their journey. "You walk with a purpose now, Bartimaeus," Peter remarked, a friendly smile on his face, quite different from the tales I've heard of your days by the roadside. Bartimaeus chuckled softly, a sound that still felt new and unfamiliar to him. "Indeed, Peter. Every step is a gift, every sight a wonder. It is as if I am seeing the world for the first time, truly seeing it, not just with my eyes, but with a heart that has been awakened." Peter agreed, his gaze sweeping across the rolling hills. "That's the way of it with the Master, isn't it? He opens our eyes to more than just what's in front of us. He shows us the world as God intended it to be seen." Bartimaeus nodded, reflecting on Peter's words. "I often think of my father, Timaeus. He was a good man, a man of quiet dignity, but I know my blindness brought him much sorrow. I yearn to see him again, to show him what the Nazarene has done, to share this new light with him." Peter placed a reassuring hand on Bartimaeus' shoulder. "You will, my friend. The Master's path often leads us back to those we love, bringing healing not just to individuals, but to families, to communities. Your Father will see the light in your eyes, and it will be a testament to the power of God." This conversation filled Bartimaeus with a quiet longing, a deep desire to reunite with his Father, to share the joy and gratitude that now overflowed within him. He imagined his Father's face, the lines of worry erased by a smile of profound relief, and felt a surge of warmth spread through his chest. He knew that his journey with Jesus was not just for his own spiritual growth, but also for those he had left behind, a beacon of hope to be carried back to his family and his community. As they continued their journey, the landscape began to hint at the approach of more significant settlements, the roads becoming wider, more frequently traveled, and the distant sounds of human activity growing louder. They were moving towards the region where the Jordan River empties into the Dead Sea, a place of stark beauty and ancient history. The air grew warmer, and the scent of salt became more pronounced, carried on the gentle breeze from the vast, shimmering expanse of the sea. They eventually reached the outskirts of a larger town, its houses built of dark, volcanic stone, their roofs flat and ready for evening gatherings. The town hummed with a quiet energy, people going about their daily tasks, their voices a soft murmur in the afternoon air. Jesus and the disciples were welcomed into a small, humble home, its interior cool and shaded, offering a respite from the sun's relentless heat. The host, a man named Simon, a weaver by trade, greeted them with genuine warmth, offering water for their feet and a simple meal of bread, cheese, and dried fruit. As they ate, Jesus spoke of the importance of gratitude, of recognizing the blessings in every moment, every encounter, every simple meal. Bartimaeus listened intently, his heart resonating with every word, for gratitude had become the very cornerstone of his new existence. He understood that true thankfulness was not merely a fleeting emotion, but a profound way of life, a constant acknowledgement of the divine hand in all things. He felt a deep connection to the ancient Jewish tradition of saying blessings throughout the day, recognizing God's presence in every act, from waking in the morning to eating a meal. Later that evening, as the stars emerged in the vast, silent sky, Bartimaeus found a quiet moment to sit alone in the small courtyard of Simon's home, the scent of night-blooming jasmine filling the air. He gazed up at the countless stars, each one a tiny pinprick of light in the infinite darkness, and felt a profound sense of peace settle over him. He thought of his journey from the dusty roadside of Jericho, through the quiet villages and fertile fields, to this peaceful courtyard, and marveled at the path his life had taken. He reflected on the nature of faith, realizing it was not just a belief in something unseen, but a profound trust in the unfolding of God's plan, even when the path was unclear. His own faith, born of desperate need and nurtured by miraculous intervention, had grown into a steady, unwavering flame within his heart. He understood that his healing was not an end in itself, but a beginning, a call to a new purpose, a life lived in service and gratitude. He knew that the road ahead would undoubtedly hold challenges, uncertainties, and perhaps even hardships, but he faced them with a quiet courage, his heart filled with an unshakable hope. He closed his eyes, not to sleep, but to savor the inner light that now burned so brightly within him, a light that illuminated not just the world outside, but the very depths of his soul. He took a deep, contented breath, the scent of the desert night, the promise of the journey, and the quiet peace of his heart all mingling into a single, harmonious note. The road stretched out, an invitation, and he knew, with an absolute certainty, that he would follow it wherever it led, his new life unfolding with every deliberate, confident stride beneath the vast, silent stars, now unseen but ever present, watching over his peaceful journey into the boundless light of a new day. The journey continued, a meandering path through the heart of Perea, a land of contrasts where rugged hills met fertile valleys, and ancient traditions mingled with the ever-present influence of Roman rule. Bartimaeus, now an accepted and integral part of Jesus' retinue, walked with an easy grace, his steps confident, his gaze keen, missing nothing of the vibrant world around him. He observed the Roman roads, meticulously constructed and traversing the landscape with an almost arrogant precision, a stark contrast to the winding, ancient footpaths that snaked through the olive groves and vineyards. He noticed the occasional Roman soldier, his armor glinting in the sun, a silent reminder of the empire's pervasive presence, yet he felt no fear, only a quiet resolve to follow the path of peace and love that Jesus embodied. The air often carried the mingled scents of thyme and wild mint from the hillsides, blending with the earthy aroma of freshly turned soil and the sweet perfume of blooming oleander, a rich tapestry of fragrances that delighted his newly awakened senses. He watched the shepherds tending their flocks on distant slopes, their voices carrying across the valleys as they called to their sheep, a timeless scene that spoke of ancient rhythms and enduring traditions. He learned to identify the different calls of the birds, the rustle of lizards in the dry grass, and the distant bark of a village dog, each sound a unique thread in the intricate fabric of his auditory world. One evening, as they camped by a small stream, its waters gurgling softly over smooth stones, Bartimaeus found himself sitting beside Andrew, Peter's brother, a man known for his quiet thoughtfulness and his earnest desire to understand Jesus' teachings. The fire crackled merrily, casting dancing shadows on their faces, and the air was cool and crisp, carrying the scent of wood smoke and damp earth. "I often wonder," Andrew began, his voice soft, what it truly means to follow the Master, to be a disciple. It is more than just walking with him, isn't it? Bartimaeus nodded slowly, gazing into the flickering flames. Indeed, Andrew. For me, it began with a desperate cry, a longing for light in the deepest darkness. But the light I received was not just for my eyes, it was for my soul, a call to a new way of being. He paused, choosing his words carefully. I believe it means to see the world through his eyes, to feel with his heart, to act with his compassion. It is a constant transformation, a shedding of the old self, a putting on of the new. Andrew considered this, his brow furrowed in thought. Yes, a transformation. He speaks often of denying oneself, of taking up one's cross. It is a difficult path, full of sacrifice. But also full of joy, Bartimaeus added, a gentle smile touching his lips. A joy that surpasses all understanding, a peace that settles deep within the heart, even amidst hardship. For when you truly see the light, the darkness loses its power. He thought of his years of blindness, the isolation, the despair, and realized that even in that profound darkness, a seed of faith had been quietly growing, preparing him for the moment of encounter. Their conversation continued long into the night, exploring the nuances of discipleship, the challenges of leaving out Jesus' teachings in a world often resistant to love and forgiveness. Bartimaeus spoke of the profound gratitude that now filled his every waking moment, a gratitude that had become a wellspring of strength and purpose. He understood that his healing was not merely a personal blessing, but a powerful testimony, a story to be shared, a beacon of hope for those still lost in darkness, whether physical or spiritual. He reflected on the historical context of his healing, the fact that Jesus had restored sight to the blind, a miracle prophesied in ancient scriptures, a sign of the Messiah's coming. He felt a profound sense of awe at being a part of this unfolding narrative, a living embodiment of ancient prophecies, a testament to God's enduring faithfulness. His life, once marginalized and forgotten, now held a profound significance, a purpose woven into the very fabric of divine history. As the days turned into weeks, their journey eventually led them closer to Jerusalem, the sacred city that pulsed with the heart of Jewish life, especially as the time for the Passover feast approached. The roads grew increasingly crowded with pilgrims from all corners of Judea and beyond, their faces filled with anticipation, their voices raised in songs of praise and expectation. The air became thick with the scent of spices, the murmur of many languages, and the distant strains of flutes and harps, creating a vibrant tapestry of sound and sensation. Bartimaeus, walking among this throng, felt a profound sense of connection to his people, to their shared history and their fervent faith. He saw the diverse faces of the pilgrims, farmers from Galilee, merchants from the coastal plains, scholars from Jerusalem, each on their own spiritual journey, drawn to the holy city. He noticed the intricate details of their clothing, the expressions of devotion on their faces, the way families walked together, their children wide-eyed with wonder, absorbing every aspect of this sacred pilgrimage. He read the stories of his youth, tales of the great festivals in Jerusalem, of the temple's grandeur, of the joyous celebrations that marked these holy times. Though he had never been able to see them then, his imagination had painted vivid pictures, and now, with his own eyes, he could begin to fill in the details, to experience the reality of these cherished traditions. The sight of the distant hills of Jerusalem, shimmering in the haze, filled him with a quiet reverence, a sense of approaching the very heart of his faith. One evening, as they rested in a small village just one day's journey from Jerusalem, Jesus gathered his disciples, including Bartimaeus, around him. The air was heavy with the scent of cypress trees and the distant sounds of the bustling pilgrimage routes. Jesus spoke of the trials that lay ahead, of the suffering he would endure in Jerusalem, and the ultimate triumph that would follow. His words, though somber, were imbued with an unwavering certainty, a profound sense of purpose. Bartimaeus listened intently, his heart aching with a mixture of sorrow and fierce loyalty. He had witnessed Jesus' power, his compassion, his unwavering love, and the thought of any harm coming to him was almost unbearable. Yet, he also understood that this was part of the larger plan, a divine purpose that transcended human understanding. He looked at the faces of the other disciples, seeing their own struggles, their fear mingled with their devotion, and felt a deep kinship with them, a shared commitment to this extraordinary man. He recalled Jesus' teachings on discipleship, on the call to deny oneself, to take up one's cross, to follow him even into the most challenging circumstances. He understood that his own journey, from darkness to light, was a small reflection of the greater journey Jesus was about to undertake, a journey of sacrifice and ultimate redemption. He knew that his restored sight was not just a gift for his own enjoyment, but a tool, a means to bear witness, to see the truth, and to share the light with a world that often chose to remain in darkness. As the night deepened, and the stars shone with an almost blinding brilliance, Bartimaeus found a quiet moment to sit alone, gazing towards the distant glow of Jerusalem. He felt a profound sense of peace, a quiet resolve settling deep within his heart. He knew that whatever lay ahead, he would face it with courage and faith, his eyes wide open, his spirit unwavering. His journey from the roadside of Jericho had led him to this moment, to this profound understanding, and he was ready to embrace whatever the new day, and the path with Jesus, would bring. He took a deep, contented breath, the scent of the desert night, the promise of the journey, and the quiet peace of his heart all mingling into a single, harmonious note. The road stretched out, an invitation, and he stepped onto it, his new life unfolding with every deliberate, confident stride beneath the vast, silent Jericho stars, now unseen but ever present, watching over his peaceful journey into the boundless light of a new day. The cool desert air, still carrying the faint, sweet scent of date palms and the distant murmur of the Jordan River, caressed Bartimaeus's newly opened eyes as he walked, each step a deliberate affirmation of his restored vision and his burgeoning faith. The dusty road, once a familiar tapestry of textures felt only by his calloused feet, now unfolded before him in shades of ochre and umber, stretching towards the faint blush of dawn that was beginning to paint the eastern sky, promising a new day unlike any he had ever truly seen. He walked alongside Jesus and the disciples, a quiet, reverent presence among their hushed conversations, absorbing every nuance of their movements, the subtle shifts in their cloaks, the way the early light caught the dust motes dancing in the air around them, details that had been utterly lost to him for so many years. His father, Timaeus, who had rushed to his side with tears streaming down his weathered cheeks after Bartimaeus's miraculous healing, now walked a little behind them, his gaze fixed upon his son with a mixture of profound relief and an almost disbelieving wonder, occasionally reaching out a trembling hand to touch Bartimaeus's shoulder, as if to reassure himself that this vibrant, seeing young man was truly his son. The crowd, which had swelled and pressed in around Jesus in Jericho, had largely dispersed as the group began their journey away from the city, leaving only a dedicated few who, like Bartimaeus, felt an undeniable pull to follow this enigmatic teacher, their hearts stirred by the extraordinary events they had witnessed. The sounds of the awakening desert, the chirping of unseen insects, the rustling of dry grasses, the distant bleating of a goat, were now distinct and separate, no longer a jumbled cacophony but a symphony of life, each note contributing to the rich tapestry of his new sensory experience. As the sun climbed higher, casting long, slender shadows across the rugged terrain, they left the verdant oasis of Jericho behind, ascending gradually into the more arid, rocky landscape that characterized the journey towards Jerusalem. The air grew warmer, thinner, carrying the dry, mineral scent of sun-baked earth and ancient stones, a stark contrast to the humid sweetness of the valley below. Bartimaeus found himself mesmerized by the intricate patterns of the rocks, the subtle variations in their coloration, the way the light played upon their jagged surfaces, revealing textures and depths he had only ever imagined in the dark recesses of his mind. He reached out a hand, tracing the cool, rough surface of a large boulder they passed, feeling the weight and solidity of the earth beneath his fingers, a tangible connection to the world that had been denied to him for so long. He read the stories Timaeus had told him of these very paths, of the pilgrims who traversed them annually, of the bandits who sometimes lurked in the shadows of the wadis, but now, with his own eyes, he could see the vastness of the landscape, the distant, shimmering haze that veiled the horizon, and the endless, expansive sky above, a brilliant, unblemished blue. A quiet moment unfolded as they paused by a small, gnarled olive tree, its ancient branches twisted by centuries of wind and sun, offering a sliver of welcome shade. Jesus sat upon a low rock, his disciples gathering around him, their voices soft and contemplative as they discussed the parables he had recently shared, their faces etched with a mixture of understanding and lingering questions. Bartimaeus, standing a little apart, watched them, his gaze lingering on Jesus' face, a face he had only known through the sound of his voice, a voice that had pierced through the clamor of the crowd and the darkness of his world. Now, he could see the gentle lines around Jesus' eyes, the subtle curve of his lips when he smiled, the way his hair caught the sunlight, details that painted a portrait of profound compassion and unwavering strength. He felt a profound sense of peace, a quiet gratitude that hummed beneath his skin, knowing that he was now part of this journey, a witness to these moments, no longer a solitary figure on the periphery, but an integrated thread in the unfolding narrative. His internal reflections often drifted back to the years of darkness, not with bitterness, but with a newfound clarity, understanding how that very darkness had sharpened his other senses, had deepened his internal landscape, preparing him, perhaps, for this very moment of spiritual and physical awakening. He recalled the texture of the rough sackcloth he had worn, the chill of the night air on his exposed skin, the distinctive scent of the fig trees near the city gate, all of which now seemed like distant echoes of a life that was both irrevocably past and yet intrinsically linked to who he was becoming. The world, once a symphony of sounds and smells and touches, was now also a vibrant canvas of colors and shapes, each new sight a revelation, each shadow a depth, each distant hill a promise of further discovery. As they continued their ascent, the path grew steeper, winding through narrow passes where the ancient rocks seemed to lean in, whispering secrets of ages past. Bartimaeus found himself walking beside John, the younger disciple, who occasionally offered a quiet observation about the landscape, pointing out a rare desert flower clinging tenaciously to a rock face or the soaring flight of an eagle circling high above. John's voice was gentle, his eyes kind, and Bartimaeus found solace in his quiet companionship, sensing a shared spirit of wonder and an openness to the divine in the everyday. They spoke little, but their shared silence was companionable, punctuated by the rhythmic crunch of their sandals on the gravelly path and the distant calls of unseen shepherds tending their flocks. The historical details of their journey subtly wove themselves into the fabric of the narrative, reminding Bartimaeus of the rich tapestry of his homeland. He knew that these very roads had been trodden by countless generations of his ancestors, by prophets and kings, by merchants and soldiers, each leaving an invisible imprint on the ancient stones. He imagined the caravans laden with spices and silks from the east, the Roman legions marching with their disciplined tread, the bustling energy of pilgrims making their way to the temple in Jerusalem, all converging on these same dusty routes. The air itself seemed to carry the echoes of these past lives, a subtle hum of history that resonated deeply within him, connecting his personal transformation to the grander narrative of his people. One afternoon, as the sun began its slow descent, painting the western sky in hues of fiery orange and deep violet, they reached a small, unassuming village nestled in a shallow valley, its mud brick houses blending seamlessly with the surrounding landscape. The scent of wood smoke and baking bread drifted on the air, a comforting aroma that spoke of hearth and home, of simple, enduring life. Jesus decided they would rest there for the night, and the villagers, recognizing him, welcomed them with a quiet reverence, offering them shelter and sustenance. Bartimaeus found himself sharing a meal with Timaeus and some of the disciples in a humble courtyard, the flickering light of an oil lamp casting dancing shadows on the rough walls. He watched the faces of the villagers, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and awe, as they listened to Jesus speak, his words flowing like a gentle stream, offering comfort and wisdom. Bartimaeus felt a profound connection to these simple people, understanding their struggles, their hopes, their quiet faith, having lived among them on the margins for so long. He noticed a young boy, perhaps no older than his own age when he had lost his sight, staring at him with wide, curious eyes, and Bartimaeus offered him a gentle, reassuring smile, a silent acknowledgement of their shared humanity. He understood then, more deeply than ever before, the power of compassion, the profound impact of a single act of kindness, and the transformative potential of seeing beyond the surface. Later that evening, as the stars began to prick through the deepening blue of the night sky, Bartimaeus found a quiet corner in the courtyard, away from the gentle hum of conversation, and sat down, leaning against a cool, rough wall. He closed his eyes, not out of habit, but to savor the internal landscape, to process the day's overwhelming beauty and wonder. He could still vividly recall the vibrant colors of the sunset, the intricate details of the village, the expressions on the faces of those he had met, all stored within the newfound archives of his visual memory. He felt a gentle hand on his shoulder and opened his eyes to see Timaeus sitting beside him, his face softened by the dim light. "You see so much now, my son," Timaeus whispered, his voice thick with emotion, "more than just with your eyes, I think." Bartimaeus turned to his father, a profound sense of love and gratitude swelling in his chest. "Yes, Father," he replied, his own voice a soft murmur, "I see the world. and I see myself within it, no longer lost, no longer alone. It is as if the darkness taught me to truly look, and now the light reveals what was always there, waiting to be seen." He paused, gazing up at the countless stars that glittered like scattered diamonds across the vast expanse of the heavens, each one a tiny, distant sun, a beacon of infinite possibility. "I see the kindness in your eyes, Father, the worry that was always there, and the joy that shines through now." Timaeus reached out and gently clasped Bartimaeus's hand, his touch firm and comforting. "Your mother would have been so proud, my son," he said, a tear tracing a path down his cheek, "so very proud of the man you have become, of your faith, your courage." Bartimaeus squeezed his father's hand, a silent promise passing between them, a shared understanding that transcended words. He thought of his mother, a faint, cherished memory from his early childhood, and felt her presence in the quiet strength of his father's hand, in the gentle breeze that rustled the leaves of a nearby fig tree, in the boundless expanse of the starlit sky. He knew that his journey was far from over, that this restoration of sight was not merely an end, but a profound beginning, an invitation to a deeper understanding of himself, of the world, and of the divine grace that had touched his life so profoundly. The night deepened, bringing with it a profound stillness that settled over the small village, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl and the soft breathing of those who slept. Bartimaeus remained awake for a time, simply observing, absorbing, allowing the quiet peace of the moment to wash over him, feeling the cool night air on his face, smelling the earthy scent of the village, hearing the gentle rhythm of the sleeping world. He felt a deep sense of belonging, a profound connection to the earth beneath him and the heavens above, no longer a marginalized figure, but an integral part of the vast, intricate tapestry of existence. He understood that true sight was not just about perceiving light and shadow, but about discerning the unseen, about recognizing the inherent worth in every soul, about extending compassion to those who suffered, and about embracing the journey with an open heart and an unwavering spirit. His transformation was not just physical, but spiritual, a profound reorientation of his entire being towards a life of purpose and meaning. The road ahead, stretching towards Jerusalem and beyond, promised new challenges and new revelations, but Bartimaeus felt ready, his heart filled with a quiet strength, his spirit infused with an unshakable faith, and his newly opened eyes eager to witness every unfolding wonder of the world. He took a deep, slow breath, the scent of the desert night, the promise of the journey, and the quiet peace of his heart all mingling into a single, harmonious note, a testament to the boundless light that now illuminated his path. And so the story rests here, for now. Thank you for spending this time with Easy Drift Sleep. If these stories help you find rest, a quick subscribe means a new one is always waiting for you. Sleep well. We will see you next time. A quiet, thoughtful man with eyes that seem to hold a deep understanding of spiritual truths. They spoke little, but their shared silence was companionable, a comfortable presence that needed no words. John pointed out a distant cluster of buildings.